While everyone else woke up with a knife and warning screens, Yibing woke up as the only man in a 49-woman convoy, stranded on the Sandsea Highway where dried. Corpses chase every vehicle at 10 kilometers an hour, and being caught means death. Then, his S-rank hint talent came online, and every upgrade path lit up in front of him. Within 50 days, he had welded the convoy's bicycles into a super combined electric-assisted car, awakening Nangchu's water element affinity with a single sapphire and burying the bandit cave under 3 oil drums in a wall of fire. 49 women, 1 driver, 1 road, and nothing could catch them. Before things get wild, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to keep going. Before any of that happened, Yibing was nothing. Let us start there. A cold system prompt scrolls across his vision, welcoming him to Sandsea Highway Survival, telling him to start his Fury Road. It says every adult over the age of 18 worldwide is now in this survival game, and each convoy has 50 people randomly grouped, where 1 hour after departure monsters will start their pursuit at a starting speed of 10 kilometers per hour, and being caught means certain death. The desert is harsh, the panel warns him, but he can upgrade his shared bicycle along the way. The convoy will pass stations, ruins, and oases where he can decide whether to go in and look for surprises. Survival, the prompt warns, begins in 10 minutes, and right now he cannot move. The countdown starts, a wave of heat hits him. Along with a sharp scent of perfume, he opens his eyes, and the office computer he was just doing overtime on is gone. Instead, a woman in yoga pants is bent over directly in front of him, her rear sticking out so close to his face that, for one stupid second, he thinks it is a massive peach. He tries to turn, only to find he cannot move anything below his neck. Around him stretches a strip of grayish concrete highway baking white under a sun that has no mercy in it. Beyond the road sits an endless ocean of yellow sand that swallows the horizon. Dunes rise and fall like waves frozen mid-crash. Sandsea Highway Survival, 50 people per group. Monsters are coming. The information slides into place, and a part of him notes with a sour kind of humor that at least he will not be doing overtime tonight. He has 1 minute to check out his teammates. A crying voice rises somewhere nearby, complaining that the ground is scalding. Another woman begs the first one to please get off her hair. A third sobs that she was in the bathtub one moment and dumped into this hellhole the next. He twists his head toward the sound and sees a snow-white woman lying flat on her back on the road. No clothes, foam still drying on her skin, wet hair plastered across her chest, faint steam already rising off her where she touches the burning concrete. A high-pitched voice tries to cheer the group up, saying that everyone here seems to be girls, which is at least good news for personal safety. Almost at the same time, another voice nearly screams the opposite, asking how the hell a team of women is supposed to survive this. He finally clocks it. Every face turned his way is female. Tall, short, slim, heavy, long hair, short hair, curly hair, some still in pajamas, one in a full Ganyu cosplay, one in a sharp office suit, and counting the yoga pants girl still innocently bent over. In front of him, there are exactly 49 of them. His vision dims at the edges. The sky has, in the most literal sense, fallen on top of him. If this were on a normal day on Earth, this scenery would feel like a beautiful dream. But this is a team survival game where death is very real, and anyone who has ever played a competitive matchup knows exactly what an all-female squad represents. Not that women are weak, but statistically, a single guy is guaranteed to be a pack mule. Carrying 49 passengers instead of just 4 is a whole different kind of disaster, a beautiful, glittering, fatal sinkhole. He would honestly take 49 muscle-bound gym bros over this, he thinks. Just then, the glowing game panel slides another wave of bad news across his eyes. Desert temperature is 40 degrees, climbing up to 55 by afternoon. Ground temperature is 46, convoy 341, current population 50, survival has not even started, and he is already half a corpse. Suddenly, the next notification blinks. 3 minutes until countdown. A starter shared bicycle for everyone has been repaired 100 meters ahead, 50 bikes in total. Transport can be damaged and upgraded. The first novice supply station, 5 kilometers down the road, holds 50 talent crystals ranging from S rank down to F rank. It is first come, first served. Every single crystal grants a unique talent. Down the road, those bicycles materialize in neat rows, silver frames trembling in the heat shimmer. S rank, his eyes light up like he just got hit with pure adrenaline. Suddenly, 49 female teammates sound like a beautiful thing, then he notices 49 pairs of eyes lock onto him. Every single one of them tags the lone guy as the threat to beat, a middle-aged woman in trousers shouts to the others that they absolutely have to block him. Before the match begins, they cannot let him get a bike first. No man can be allowed to take the lead, but then a calmer young voice argues the opposite. She says the strongest member should lead their team. Another woman in pajamas agrees. Comparing him to the male lion of a pride, the middle-aged woman just sneers. Lecturing them that male lions never actually hunt, she claims the lionesses do all the dirty work. If he takes first place, he will turn around and enslave them, and she drops her voice just low enough for everyone to hear, then violate them. Breathless cosplayer chimes in, saying he might use them as slaves and then feed them to the zombies because that is how it goes in web novels. His lips twitch. What in the world are kids reading these days? But he gets it. The game has begun, and from this second on, it is cooperation or total confrontation. Trust or betrayal, he has to break this fragile alliance before it solidifies. He takes a deep breath of the scorching air and keeps his voice remarkably calm. He tells the ladies to please settle down first, even if he does take first place, he is still only 1 out of 50. One lone talent cannot survive this hellish place. He levels a finger at the middle-aged woman, asking her directly why, if she is so incredibly worried. She is standing right at the front, where she can never block him anyway. He asks if she wants the rest to be her shields, taking out a rival so she can quietly grab first place herself. His eyes scan across their wavering faces as he warns them that creating division right at the moment a 50-person team is forming is a terrible survival tactic. The monsters are at their backs, and the harsh desert lies ahead. The only way their talents will reach maximum potential is through tight coordination. He asks who agrees with survival and fair play, and who opposes. A brief silence hangs over them. Then the calmer woman speaks up, agreeing with the plan. She points out that surviving this first ordeal is the only thing that actually matters. A stylish woman makes a cynical remark about women being selfish. She claims everyone has hidden motives, but she does not support the middle-aged lady either. Suddenly, the tide begins to turn. She does not need every single person on her side. Keeping the majority neutral is enough. Right then, the system counts down 3, 2, 1. With the restriction lifted, she explodes forward like a coiled spring. The middle-aged woman lunges for her arm, but she shoves her aside without losing speed. Slipping right past her, she pours every ounce of energy into a desperate sprint. Behind her, a chaotic mess of clattering bikes and sharp screams breaks out. Girls trip in pajamas, and others shriek as their bare skin hits burning metal. She vaults onto the lead bike, gritting her teeth against the scalding seat. She stomps the pedals so violently that the rusted gears begin to whine. Crouching low, she breathes steadily, carefully avoiding the deep patches of drifting road sand. A single crash means injury, which in this place leads directly to death. She maintains this brutal pace for 20 minutes before finally spotting her target. A concrete bus shelter sits isolated on the left, half swallowed by the desert dunes. She scans for movement, drops the bicycle, and rushes inside the structure. 50 marble-sized crystal balls sit on a bench, glowing in dim, mismatched colors. Right in the center, a single crystal glows faintly gold. In S rank, her heart hammers. She snatches it up, and a rush of complex information floods directly into her mind. There is no time to read the full details before she moves to the others. She quickly scans the bench, picking out the purple A ranks and the blue B ranks. She ignores the lower tiers as the sounds of rattling bicycles approach from behind. The others are arriving. She commands the gold crystal to activate, and it dissolves. It melts into starlight, flowing into her as a deeper layer of knowledge settles. When she reaches for an rank next, a system notification suddenly cuts her off. It warns that each survivor can only fuse with one crystal. Her eyes flash with determination. She rips off her sweat-soaked jacket, spreads it out, and sweeps the remaining crystals inside. Ignoring their ranks, she ties the jacket into a tight, heavy bundle. She runs back to her bicycle and tosses the bundle into the front basket. Her strategy has changed. 1 S rank against 49 deadweights is not going to work. She needs to identify and nurture useful teammates while completely cutting loose the rest. These talent crystals are the absolute best bargaining chips she will ever find. Those who follow her and prove their worth will receive much better talents. Anyone who refuses can fend for themselves. She mounts the bicycle and heads back. Pedaling hard against the scorching wind, her wet hair plasters against her forehead. She raises a hand, calling out loudly for everyone to stop right there. She warns them not to come any closer, patting the bulging jacket bundle. She announces she has all the crystals. The middle-aged woman immediately starts screaming. She wails that this is exactly what happens when people refuse to listen. The others look furious, terrified, and highly calculating, but our lead remains calm. She keeps her voice perfectly level, promising to lay out a logical reason they can all accept. She reveals her S-rank talent is called Hint, which identifies the ideal match for each person. She explains that this is the only way a group like theirs can survive and succeed. Strength and how each of them can match with a talent that actually suits her, so that an F rank in the right hands might beat a B rank in the. He explains this is just a proposal, warning that if they hate it, he will scatter the crystals on the spot, leaving them to fend for themselves, and that they will decide by a show of hands and follow the majority. He is, of course, hoping they all join him, but he cannot let it look like a dictator's decree. If anything goes wrong later, he would take all the blame for making a unilateral decision. Democracy it is. Hands rise one by one, led by the calmer women. More follow until even the holdouts look around and quietly raise their arms. 2. Even the middle-aged woman's mouth twitches before she shoves her hand into the air with a glare. The vote carries. He does not waste another second because nobody can stand under this blazing sun much longer. He pulls out the first rank ball, glowing purple, and lets everyone see the strange light it throws. He explains. This is called healing, an incredibly powerful rank talent capable of repairing almost any injury. Then he looks around at the girls. Every time his eyes land on one, a private system prompt pops up, visible only to him. The first names Yu Chun Rai as a highly excellent healer choice. The second names Wan Hong as excellent and likely to feel grateful. The third names Dong Yan, the yoga pants wearing Chunabiu girl from before, as an excellent healer with gratitude and a real chance she will commit her loyalty to him. He does not even hesitate. He points straight at Dong Yan and tells her she is the right fit. She blinks, pointing at herself in disbelief, and only after he nods does she skip forward and takes the purple crystal in both hands, under everyone's watching eyes. She activates it. Purple sparks dissolve into her skin, and a second later she turns, announcing solemnly that he was not lying, and the number of uses on this talent is tied to her spirit attribute, and that her spirit is 20 points, the highest of the 4 base stats. Quiet whispers murmur through. Some have 10, some 13. Yu Chun Rai admits hers is also 20, her face complicated, but Dong Yan's other 3 stats, strength, speed, and constitution, are all at 11, comfortably above the group average, and that settles it. The choice is undeniable. On top of that, Dong Yan and he are strangers who have never spoken, and she was one of the girls who slandered him as a pervert earlier, yet he still gave her the best ball based on the prompt. That proves his absolute fairness to the entire crowd. After that, he tells Dong Yan to go heal everyone who fell or burned. She nods and trots over to the naked woman who has been baking on the concrete like squid on a teppan, and who looks as bad as anyone can look without being dead. Her skin is blistered, charred in places, her back a sheet of sunburn red, her lower body too damaged to walk. Dong Yan kneels as a pure white light flows out of her palms, and right there in front of everyone the swelling goes down, the blisters flatten, dead skin slews off, and clean new skin shows underneath. The woman, whose name he learns is Song Ah, moves her body in disbelief, saying she feels much better, completely healed, but then her joy buckles under a wave of sudden mortification as she realizes she still has nothing on. Dong Yan, grinning, runs a hand along Song Ah's now glowing back, praising her skin like a sister. A quick tease makes the group of surrounding women laugh, breaking the thick tension. As the atmosphere lightens, he moves on to explain the second rank, which is pure luck. This person will dodge dangers and find extra resources easily. They will even encounter fewer monsters. His sharp gaze sweeps across the crowd and settles by a hilarious coincidence right on the pale-skinned beauty, Song Ah's. Her cheeks instantly burn bright red. Biting her lower lip, she steps forward, braced for everyone stares. He enjoys her embarrassment for a second, hides a quick smirk, and pulls his coat from around the remaining crystals to hand it over to her so she can cover herself. For a brief second, the remaining crystals are exposed, glowing brilliantly in the sunlight. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman's eyes turn red with Pure envy, she lunges forward, trying to snatch the glowing purple ball from his hand. But he is ready. A sharp kick sends her crashing down to the hard ground. 3 strikes and you are out, he warns coldly, with zero mercy in his tone. Under his icy glare, she shrinks back, completely silent as her resentment turns to sheer terror, yet this little disruption does not break his calm rhythm at all. It only solidifies his power. He moves through the rest of the crystals without hesitation, and 3 more women end up drawing solid B ranks. The first is Nam Chu, a capable fund manager wearing a sharp suit jacket and black stockings. Her talent is water elemental enhancement, which lets her pull small amounts of drinking water directly out of thin air. The second woman is an English major, whom everyone calls lowly, wearing a short white skirt. She has drawn speed enhancement, which grants a quick burst of extreme velocity and boosts her passive stats. The third woman is the fit yoga instructor wearing yoga pants, who introduces herself as nabbing. She even playfully wags a finger at him in greeting. Her unique talent is called Old Driver, granting a passive bonus to any vehicle she drives. Finally, he tallies up the results. 1S rank, 2A ranks, 3 B ranks, 4C, 8D, 12E, and 20F ranks. No more stalling. It is time to ride. Soon, their convoy is rolling down the road again. But look at that, the air has shifted because everyone finally has a talent, allowing them to size each other up. Ahead lies scorching sun and endless desert. He and Nabbing take turns at the front of the line to block the headwind. He has the athletic stamina to maintain the pace, but Nabbing has her Old Driver talent. It halves her stamina drain while riding a bicycle and improves her posture, keeping her steadier than him despite her being a woman. They do not push too hard. The pace must suit the weakest members. Pedaling behind them, they need to preserve energy for hours, not just minutes. He is soaked in sweat almost immediately, thanking his luck they have bicycles. If they had to walk, no one would survive even 10 minutes out here. He remembers a tragic news story about travelers stranded in the Lopner Desert, who tried to walk to safety. They all died incredibly fast, with the strongest survivor only making it 5 or 6 kilometers from their broken vehicle. People always overestimate their physical stamina and underestimate the unforgiving, burning desert. When those search teams found the bodies, they looked practically cooked alive, with feet so severely dehydrated they resembled mummies, and that was a normal Earth. Desert, this alien wasteland is far worse. 30 minutes in, the heat intensifies. Amidst the chaos, a fragile girl sways and falls right off her bike. A textbook heatstroke collapse, the deadly kind that kills in minutes if nobody steps in. He barks for Dong Yan to stop and heal her, and Nang Chu to spray water for her to drink. Together, they pull her back from the edge in about 10 seconds, but the cost is heavy, leaving both Dong Yan and Nang Chu visibly exhausted. Using talents takes a serious toll. He would carry Dong Yan to spare her, but these cheap rental bikes do not have a back seat. Keep up, he starts to shout. But a harsh gust of wind blows a mouthful of sand down his throat instead. Nearby, Nang Chu looks at his dusty face, then down at her own black stockings, wet with sweat and coated in sand. After a moment of hesitation, she bends down, rips a slit near the thigh, and tears off a long strip. She blushes as she holds it out, telling him that if he does not mind, it could serve as a mask. To help, he takes it immediately, offering his thanks, and ties it across his face like a rugged cowboy. No time to be picky here. He splashes a little water on the fabric to block the flying dirt, shielding his mouth and nose from the brutal heat, giving his entire face instant relief. When she sees how well it works, Nang Chu tears up the rest of her stockings to make 6 masks in total, passing them to the leading riders and to Dong Yan so she can still speak without inhaling sand. But when she offers one to Na Bing, she just smiles mysteriously and declines, saying the fabric should go to those who need it more. Since she has her own solution, they watch as she stops her bike, turns her back, and reaches deep into the waistband of her tight yoga pants to fish out a pair of light-colored lace panties, so thin they resemble delicate cicada wings. This breathable material, she calmly explains to them, makes for a much better mask and offers plenty of air. She quickly unfolds the fabric and slips it over her head. To cover her face, splashes a bit of water on it, and rides ahead. He stares in surprise for a second, then silently gives her a quick thumbs up. Honestly, that has to be the most genius survival hack he has ever witnessed in his life. Following Nang Chu's genius idea, the other 4 girls with stockings start ripping Their own, and within minutes half the group is masked, the rest blushing hard. Copy the veteran driver Nub Bing and donate their own undergarments, and soon the entire convoy is sporting colorful, lightweight fabrics over their faces. The sight is completely absurd, but it functions perfectly since survival overrules dignity. He tells Nub Bing through his mask that it is unbelievable how many of them are wearing such colorful gear. Nub Bing rides right alongside him, her veteran skills leaving her with plenty of extra energy to explain that women do not choose undergarments just for style, as materials and overall breathability are vital for hygiene, which is something a guy would never consider. He honestly does not have the extra breath left to argue against her logic. Once that brief pause ends, the oppressive heat rushes back like a tide. 1 hour later, every single breath feels like inhaling pure fire. The desolate road ahead warps. In the blistering heat haze, sweat literally pours off him, drying up before it can even touch the ground, leaving behind a white crust of salt on his skin. The panel keeps climbing, 45 degrees in the air, 51 on the ground, still convoy 341. With 50 survivors left, this past hour has been absolutely brutal. His eyelid twitches with strain. Thank God for Dong Yan and Nang Chu. This healer and water dew is the most precious asset this desert could ask for. Already, 7 or 8 people have collapsed along the road, but they all got back on their bikes. Miraculously, not a single soul has fallen behind, but even so, everyone is at their limit, physically and mentally. They are done. Quiet sobs begin to spread as the women cry that they cannot pedal anymore. Their skin feels like it is splitting from the heat. Hold on, he rasps, throat parched. His unique hint talent tells him the next oasis is just 5 kilometers away. There will be water and shade. That hint talent is an absolute lifesaver. Without it, they would be wandering blindly, and their morale would crash, but hearing a concrete number immediately lifts the convoy. 20 minutes later, he drags himself up a steep dune ahead of the others and crests it. Down below, a gorgeous patch of deep emerald suddenly appears, a small lake shining like a gem dropped into a golden desert. It is ringed by dry shrubs and a few dozen leaning palms throwing down patches of shade. The sparkling water shimmers, and he can barely contain his relief. Behind him, wild screams of joy erupt as they catch sight of the oasis, squeezing out their last bits of energy to charge down the dune. Wait, he yells, throwing his arms wide. Everyone stop. They freeze in total confusion, but a system warning, visible only to him, floats above the trees. It is a tiny oasis. It has fresh water, food, stone, wood, and basic upgrade. Parts buried under the sand, but it also warns of a desiccated desert corpse. With the strength of an adult man, its slow claws and teeth carry dangerous poison. The infection causes severe muscle stiffness and mental confusion. Nang Chu, hearing his warning, suggests they bypass the threat. Her water talent has kept her in great shape, keeping her mind incredibly sharp, but Dong Yan speaks up, pointing out that this oasis is barely 1,000 square meters. Even a full detour to avoid it wouldn't save them much time or distance. Plus, what if they waste precious energy only for the monster to jump across the lake to intercept them? Song Ah adds quietly that she cannot make a detour. The sand is too blazing hot and she has no shoes. Her bare feet will cook. The choice is clear. They fight. He refuses to back down. The monster only has the strength of a single adult man. There is no reason he cannot defeat it. Rather than leaving it behind to ambush some other poor souls, but he needs help. Fighting alone is foolish. He asks for volunteers, but the entire group goes dead silent. They are ordinary women who have never fought in their lives, and they can barely even stand right now. Survival instinct keeps their hands down, but Dong Yan steps up. Raising her hand, he looks her over. She's barely 1.6 meters tall, and he shakes his head. She is their only healer. The healer must stay back. If the healer dies, they all die. Loli nervously offers to join, noting that her B-rank speed talent is their only real combat option, leaving her with no other choice. Nah. Bing steps up next, claiming her stamina is still solid. Nang Chu joins in, and Song Ah asks if someone can lend her shoes, because within 100 meters she can cast a luck aura to prevent anyone from getting killed instantly. The vanguard team set, he will lead with Nang Chu, Loli, and Nub Bing on the flanks, while Song Ah and Dong Yan provide rear support. The rest will prepare to swarm. With so many allies, all he needs to do is lock the monster down, and they can stomp it together. Trampling forward would only mash it into the sand. After a short rest to recover, he grabs a discarded high-heeled shoe to use as a weapon, and walks to the road edge. Closest to the oasis, the water is 100 meters out, and that sandy stretch is almost certainly where the dried corpse lies in wait the moment they step in. They are within ambush range. His hint does not activate when he scans, but his knowledge of the monster is already clear. Rushing in blind would be the absolute worst mistake. He calls over two girls, one with a smell talent and another with sharp hearing. Their talents are weak, but they are exactly what he needs right now. He edges along the sand line, letting them focus. Smell detects nothing. Hearing, through a shoe pressed into the sand, picks up a faint friction sound. As Nainchu walks, the sound slides with him. The monster is moving underground. Knowing roughly where it is, the rest is easy. Lowly with her speed, Talent volunteers to take his place as the bait. She walks back and forth along the sand line like a patient angler. Soon, the dried corpse takes the bait. But even with her speed and warnings from the hearing girl, she is too slow. A withered hand explodes from the sand and locks onto her calf. She screams. Nainchu is completely ready and yanks her arm, sending Loli flying back onto the concrete and bringing the dried corpse with her. He swings the high heel down onto its skull with absolute force. The hard metal heel turns out to carry critical hit and piercing properties, punching a clean hole straight through the shriveled skull. The monster still tries to bite her. Even with its head pierced, panic rises and he smashes it until the heel snaps off. He drops the shoe, starts stomping, and barks out the order for everyone to pile on. The group rushes in, raining down a barrage of kicks on the monster. The dried corpse is ridiculously kicked to death by raw enthusiasm. Its limbs rip off, its head is trampled flat, and its severed hand is still gripping her calf. He pries the dead fingers off to find a black print on her leg, the skin already rotting and weeping black blood. Lowly is babbling in terror, sobbing that she does not want to die yet because she remains a virgin who has not even found a man yet. The poison is clearly chewing through her clarity. She grabs his hand, pleading with him to please let her experience it before she dies, to kiss her, just once please. He crouches next to her with a deadpan, long-suffering expression and tells her she is not going to die, muttering that he did not realize this poison made people speak their true feelings to nobody in particular. Meanwhile, Dongyan, complaining the entire time, reaches over, touches the wound, and lights up her healing magic. Within seconds, Loli is normal again. She blinks, sits up, and asks what happened, then remembers and checks her calf, breathing out a huge sigh of relief. Dongyan asks innocently whether she remembers what she just said. Loli looks bewildered, asking what she said and claiming she only called for help. Then she turns to thank everyone with a grateful face, especially Dongyan, because without her she might really have died. Nobody corrects her, letting her save face. Loli plays it perfectly calm afterward, but of course she has to. She cannot exactly own up to begging him to kiss her in front of the entire convoy. Inside, she is dying of shame, wishing she could faint on the spot every time her eyes with a glance toward him. She nearly loses composure, telling herself fiercely that she is not actually that pent up, blaming it on the dried corpse talk and constant chatter. Luckily, everyone is too thrilled about the oasis to dig into her strange behavior. The moment he confirms Loli is fine, the group charges toward the lake at a full sprint. He does not lag behind, running the final stretch to dive right in. The water is shallow but crystal clear, and tasting how fresh it is, he gulps it down greedily like a thirsty dog. Nangchu had been spraying water along the way, but the amount was limited, keeping them all in a miserable, constantly parched state, desperately thirsty and near total dehydration. As the water pours into his burning throat, the cooling relief is indescribable. This is pure bliss, and he drinks his fill before collapsing under the shaded trees on the shore, resting in the cool shade like this feels absolutely divine. The rest of the group is in a similar state, either soaking in the lake or collapsed on the bank. Dongyan ends up sprawling out next to him, her drenched clothes clinging tightly to her skin and outlining every curve. And when he turns his head, he catches a glimpse of pale skin just as she turns too. Their eyes meet. She freezes, then flushes, pulling her collar together and softly offering her thanks. He asks why, and she explains it is for the A-rank healing crystal. Without it, she would have struggled, and she would never have been so welcome on the team. She softly admits that she is actually quite cowardly, just a normal person with no real skills. He tells her not to say things like that, insisting his talent proved she was the right pick. She shakes her head and points out that being the right pick did not guarantee she would get the crystal since her physical strength was only upper middle in the group, and she would never have won a sprint. She knows perfectly well that she has his talent. To thank for, there is also a secret she does not say aloud, which is that another girl in the group also had 20 spirit and was incredibly pretty with a great figure. He easily could have given the ball to her without anyone questioning it, but he chose Dong Yan instead. She promises to pay him back, but he tells her not to treat it like a transaction since they are all in the same boat now and helping each other is just good policy, calling it mutual help between friends. Mutual help between friends, she repeats, face still flushed. She gathers the courage to speak when Nang Chu suddenly orders everyone to pack up, scavenge resources, and prepare to move, warning that the monsters will catch up if they linger. The oasis is small enough to take in at a glance. He jumps up and warns them that nobody should move just yet, suggesting they let Song Ah search for resources to boost their luck. And indeed, their fortune turns. The team agrees, pointing Song Ah toward an old abandoned tent almost completely swallowed up by the endless yellow sand. Song Ah is wearing only his oversized jacket, no pants, no shoes, walking barefoot on the cool ground beneath the shade. The jacket is barely long enough to cover her bottom, leaving her long legs completely exposed. On any normal day, she would mind tremendously. Today, nobody has the energy to care. She approaches the tent, far too exhausted to bend down, so she kneels and pulls it open as everyone watches in silence. She starts pulling items out, and a loud cheer rises with every single find: bottled water, canned food, an iron pickaxe, and an axe. When she drags out a crate of canned cola, the celebration peaks as everyone is absolutely desperate for a sugar rush. After that exhausting ride, sugar is the fastest energy booster out there, and a single cold soda can save your life. Song Ah groans that the iron ingot is way too heavy, but the others quickly run over to help. Don Yan touches metal, gasping that this is the good stuff. They can upgrade their rides. Someone begs to do it fast because her backside is literally aching. Within minutes, the entire massive hall is safely stacked in the cool shade. 150 water bottles, 100 fish cans, and 5 crates of canned cola, 50 corn chicken sausages, 20 crude iron ingots, plus 2 rolls of copper wire totaling 10 meters, 2 crates of basic parts, 2 lithium batteries, and 2 walkie-talkies and a single dagger. The moment Faye touches an iron ingot, a prompt rings in his head. It explains that iron ingots upgrade gear and vehicles. Just place the materials next to the target to perform the upgrade. The paths are highly diverse and completely open to exploration. This makes things very interesting. If he can make those heavy bikes less labor-intensive, survival becomes instantly easier. Just thinking about pedaling that heavy frame makes him feel completely numb. Faye slides an ingot next to a bicycle. The prompt pops up asking if he wants to spend 1 energy point just to improve sturdiness and durability. Is that it? That sounds incredibly boring, but then a much deeper tutorial unfolds as he stares. Every single component of the bike lights up. He can upgrade whatever he focuses on. While everything else fades out of focus, he looks at the gears. Aiming for lower friction, he can build bigger, puncture-resistant tires, or even a larger frame to make it a tricycle. By adding those lithium batteries, he could actually build a fully power-assisted electric bicycle. Now that is enticing. Of course, he needs the right materials. The possible combinations are incredibly deep, making his head spin. Resources are strictly limited, where he upgrades first or what he spends them on will shape their entire path. Pick the wrong direction and whatever is hunting them from behind will easily catch up. Brother Fei, Don Yan whispers, leaning in close. These resource allocations and upgrade paths look like a serious test. She warns him that in games, a bad build is impossible to fix later. Fei completely agrees. He warns the group not to rush or waste resources on impulse, promising they will plan everything out together. He tells Don Yan to spread the word. While he sits down to run the numbers, just then, another prompt flashes. There are 22 possible upgrade paths for his personal bicycle, Power, which saves stamina and boosts individual speed, but hurts team travel. Efficiency, loading gives more capacity and stability, perfect for group travel but weighs down the individual. Protection boosts defense, keeping them safe but sacrificing speed and energy. Attack option. Weaponizing the frame offers absolutely no travel benefits. Choosing wisely is key. Power, combined with loading, offers the best of both worlds, but costs much more. The system actually lays out the pros and cons of every build. This is pure gold. No wasted resources, no detours. Faye can build exactly what he needs. He feels his shoulders finally drop. He cracks open a cold cola and starts reading through them. Slowly, the carbonation hits on the first sip. The sugar and caffeine slap him awake and his head clears up completely. He immediately rules out the extreme paths. Pouring all resources into a single direction is just too risky, power alone. It makes the bike fast and efficient, but ruins its protection and capacity. And he definitely does not want speed if the scorching sun kills him midway. Certain upgrades are completely non-negotiable, like adding a sunshade, canopy, and extra protection. The best play is combining multiple paths at once. Power, loading space, protection, and weaponry is the ultimate build with unlimited resources, which they obviously do not have. After thinking it over, he picks a hidden path most people would never notice without a prompt, the combined upgrade path. The concept is fusing several bicycles into a single multi-passenger vehicle. He has ridden those four-person tourist bikes at scenic parks before, so they definitely work. This allows them to maximize every resource. The whole team rises or falls together. And the vehicle's speed and range will improve massively. It is basically all upside. The only downside is if it breaks, the entire group stops together. And this major upgrade is completely irreversible, but that risk is practically negligible. On top of that, he cannot help looking over at Song-ah, who is poking at the oasis with a dry branch. With her insane luck on board, the chances of bad things happening drop significantly. If she rode her own bicycle, her fortune would only protect herself. On one shared vehicle, her luck shields everyone. And sitting right next to her makes the buff feel like an active lucky charm. Then there is Now Being, their veteran driver who cuts vehicle consumption in half. If she drives this multibike, the whole team enjoys that huge passive boost. That is what maximizing talents looks like. He makes the call to combine all 49 teammates, then he does the math and runs into a major snag. Merging 50 bikes into a double-row monster requires 40 crude iron ingots. They have 20. He could combine 25 first and absorb the rest later, but nobody wants the unupgraded back half of a stripped-down ride. Plus, the next station might not even have any ingots. The team morale they just built up would instantly crater. He knows without a doubt that this decision will be fiercely opposed by them. He would hate it too, but he cannot afford any indecision now. He will be as fair as possible. Everyone takes turns riding. Then Song-ah walks up, clattering in oversized shoes she borrowed from someone, but her face has a smug little smile as she leans in to tell him she discovered something. Still chewing on the upgrade math, he asks absently what she found. She reveals she discovered a hidden resource pit buried deep, completely packed with crude iron ingots and mining tools. He jerks his head up, asking how many. Around 40, she says, her lips curling. He bursts out laughing, giving her a thumbs up. There. Lucky girl just saved them. He was bracing to play the villain over resources. And she completely erased the entire problem. Talk about unfair luck with another 40 ingots. The upgrade plan is saved, and they have a comfortable surplus. She is slightly embarrassed by his praise, admitting Dong Yuan told her to walk around. Because of her luck, she just followed her gut and stepped on a patch of sand at the edge of the oasis. It collapsed, exposing an old tent buried underneath, full of these materials. He tells her to lead the way, since he has some great news for her as well. Suddenly, she trips. The sand on the surface is at least 50 degrees, and she wears nothing but a long coat. Falling is no different from landing directly on a hot griddle. She hisses with tears in her eyes, biting her lip as he catches her by the waist and asks if she is all right. She manages to complain that the shoes are just too big, causing her to lose her footing. She tries stepping on her left foot, but her knee buckles instantly. Her ankle is swollen. He tells her not to move it. It looks bad. Exhaustion has caught up with her legs, and wearing those giant shoes 3 sizes too big made the sprain severe. She mutters in absolute frustration, asking why her luck bonus did not stop her from getting hurt on flat ground. She is now leaning almost her entire weight against him, her face turning hot as she finally asks him shyly if he can carry her over to the resource pit. Because she really cannot walk. He has already given her clothes and a talent, and now she has to ask him to carry her. The math of what she owes him is not very flattering. He nods and lifts her into a princess carry with one hand under her thighs and the other at her back, finding her far lighter than expected. Even though her figure is far from thin, her thighs firm and athletic. The lake bath has a sweet scent like osmanthus. She feels the warmth from his hands, and her heart beats wild. Breaking the silence, she asks about his good news. He explains his bicycle merge plan, wanting to combine everyone's bikes into one giant rig so they can ride in shifts, saving plenty of energy. Her face lights up. They finally have a chance to rest, otherwise her body will give out. If her mind isn't cared for first, he agrees. Riding solo really takes a toll. They trade casual small talk all the way back, and by the time he sets her down near the supplies, Dong Yeon is squatting there eating canned food. She looks up, eyes widening. An obvious thought is written across her face. That they only left a minute ago, yet he is already carrying Song-ah back. Song-ah quickly explains that she sprained her ankle. Dong Yeon leans down to look. Sees the swelling, her face turning thoughtful and confused. No way, she says. The lucky star who finds treasure just by walking actually sprained her ankle, and this badly. After Dong Yeon heals her and Song-ah leads him away, being lounging on the sand, drawls that there is a possibility this sprain is actually good luck for Song-ah, that it might be exactly how her luck talent decided to work today. Dong Yeon blinks, then her eyes widen as she watches Song-ah walking side by side with him, and her expression turns very thoughtful. Song-ah brings him to the dig site, where people are already moving iron ingots. The terrain is lower here, naturally sheltered from wind, but completely buried by sand, impossible to spot without help. Digging out the surrounding sand, they also find the remains of old campfires. The whole site, the ruins, look like an abandoned camp. Combined with the iron and pickaxes, it might have been a mining outpost. Sure enough, against a nearby dune they find a mine entrance. A wooden door stops the sand from pouring in, meaning the sand is piled up against it, almost burying it. Without Song-ah's suspicious presence, they never would have found it. Bai peeks through the crack, pitch black. Nothing visible. A prompt rises. Mysterious mine, exceptionally complex passages, mysterious underground creatures. His current strength is insufficient, and going in will likely kill him, though there is a small chance of precious gemstones and minerals, but he drops the idea immediately since it is meant for combat-focused groups. Definitely not his style. Still, it reminds him to search for hidden zones at future stations, because once he gets stronger, this is the type of place that pays off. By the time he returns from the mine entrance, the convoy has already cleared the dig site. His inventory lists 40 iron ingots, 5 iron pickaxes, 1 sleeping bag, 2 blankets, and 3 flashlights. Massive haul, and all of it is useful. He gathers everyone to explain the combined upgrade, fusing all 50 bikes into a single multi-person vehicle, a huge advantage, far cheaper in iron than separate upgrades, and allowing them to share their talents. A few women trade glances before one of them speaks up, agreeing to the plan, but asking if he can modify the seats, add backrests, and even build a bed for taking turns to rest. Her face flushes as she quietly explains that she is on her period and feeling rough, meaning she might need to lie down occasionally. She promises she will not act like a slacker, noting that healing magic cannot fix this since Dong Yen already tried. He is momentarily stunned. Then he recovers and tells her the plan is fully feasible. Fortunately, they have extra iron, and it is something he admits he would never have thought of on his own. His voice is sincere and encouraging, letting the woman who suggested it relax with a small smile. But that is exactly why they should speak up. Nain Chu cuts in playfully, urging everyone to share their needs since a guy like him cannot think of every detail. She glances his way, teasingly adding that he clearly does not realize that with 50 women on this ride, statistically someone is on her period. Every single day, everyone freezes before bursting into laughter, with 30 days in a month and 49 girls on the team. It is just basic math. He laughs along, realizing Nain Chu is a workplace veteran who truly knows how to read a room. Under her light, the discussion opens up. They discuss where to add hanging hooks, where to place storage compartments, and whether to add lights for night travel. The only person staying silent is Mun Ryong, the middle-aged woman who tried to block him at the start. She stands at the edge of the crowd with a dim expression, watching silently with complicated eyes, which he notes for later. Then the modification begins. Combined upgrade, he commands, and the bicycles lined up together start glowing white, while the piles of iron ingots are painted in that same brilliant radiance. When the light fades, a strange, massive vehicle stands where the bikes once were, 2 seats per row, 25 rows deep. Every seat has its own pedals and handlebar, but only the front. Pair can steer. Controlling a frame this long is bound to be terrifying. But the road is empty concrete. Since they are the only vehicle, it does not matter. Much gasps of awe ripple through the crowd as he keeps going, adding an iron sheet roof. Against the sun, he places an iron sheet bed in the middle row and another at the end. Laying the sleeping bag and blankets over them, with the basic build complete, now comes the special upgrade. The system prompt asks if he wants to consume 2 lithium batteries, 2 rolls of copper wire, 1 box of basic parts, and 2 iron ingots to make. Vehicle electric assisted, he confirms immediately. A motor bolts itself onto the front near the bottom, and an iron box for the lithium batteries appears right next to it. Since the batteries are too limited to run for long, he decides to hold the electric. Emergency use only. He tries adding a kinetic energy recovery system, hoping coasting downhill might recharge the batteries. Too bad. The system prompt says he needs copper, extra iron, and advanced parts. Out of options, he installs basic headlights instead. 2 simple flashlights and 1 basic component. Perfect combination with his remaining 5 iron ingots. He crafts 5 iron cargo boxes to hang off the sides. Modification complete. He touches the heavy metal rig to inspect its upgraded specs. Super combined electric assisted bicycle, mechanical steering, 2 front riders. Control the wheel. Steering is F grade. 50 independent seats are attached, each with pedals and handlebars. Muscle power combined with electric assist. Backed by twin lithium batteries, human pedaling reaches 0 to 60 kilometers. Electric assist hits 35 kilometers on flat ground, max 5 minutes. Check the traits. Team shared talent. Members share special skills passively. An iron sheet roof is installed. It blocks the scorching sun. Emergency rest area. 1 iron bed is placed in each back row. A sleeping bag and blankets provide quick recovery for exhausted teammates. Expanded storage. 5 iron boxes offer over 2 cubic meters. Dual front headlights. 30 meters of night vision. Saving resources is passive now. Slashing 40% off team upgrades. He looks it over and nods. These team traits are brilliant. From now on, their convoy holds a double bonus, saving 40% across the board, but their main shared talent right now is the ultimate cheat code, luck. As long as they ride this vehicle, they share a slice of Song A's incredible fortune. Unlucky outcomes drop significantly. Pure comfort. Time to pack their supplies. They load everything they found onto the vehicle and say goodbye. Leaving this temporary paradise is tough, but they set off. He and Na Bing sit up front as driver and navigator. The entire heavy rig now runs on a driving rotation, swapping every half hour. Pedaling duties rotate row by row. Half an hour on, then rest. This is a whole different planet. Even loaded with heavy cargo, this combined rig has less resistance than 50 separate bikes. Speed steadies at 30 kilometers per hour. Listen. The desert wind rushes past. Scorching hot, but calm has returned. Finally, a sense of calm returns. Only now does he get a real meal, popping open. A can of fish, rich, salty black bean oil floods his mouth. After the absolute chaos of his day, this fat and salt combo is heaven. He eats 2 cans, gulps down cold soda, and exhales a long breath of satisfaction. The vehicle glides forward. Golden sand dunes roll up and down under the hot sun. Right beside him, Na Bing holds the steering wheel, wiping sweat from her forehead with her sleeve. Strands of hair sway gently against her flushed cheek. Suddenly, he hears a soft rustle behind. His seat catches his attention. A peeled corn and meat sausage is offered. He turns around. Dong Yan is smiling, playfully waving the sausage at him. He takes a bite from her hand. Sweet, salty meat melts instantly. Between his teeth, he leans back, happily letting her feed him bite by bite. A warm breeze sweeps past, carrying light laughter and the scent of food. If their journey stays like this, then maybe survival is actually worth it. With someone to lean on, share with, and look out for, this brutal survival escape feels bearable. He looks out toward the horizon, where the massive sand dunes meet the endless blue sky. Let the thoughts sink in. Suddenly Dongyan murmurs his name, calling him Brother Fei. She hands over a small black walkie-talkie, urging him to take a close look. It seems capable of communicating with other teams, while their own people inspect the gear. Fei takes the radio as everyone else finishes, examining their newly collected loot. Sun Ah pulled it from a hidden cache, and he initially assumed it was for local talk. But powering it up allows him to intercept signals from completely different, distant teams. It is high-tier, long-range equipment. He flips the power switch to the on position. Only a loud wall of static greets him, filled with howling wind and heavy breathing. Peeking over his shoulder, Dongyan suggests that he turn the channel knob to scan. Each frequency should carry a different group, prompting him to twist the dial. Suddenly, a raspy male voice cuts through, identifying himself as Team 300. The stranger sounds completely exhausted, prompting Faye to press his own talk button. He transmits back, identifying their group as Team 341, causing an instant reaction. The stranger barks out in surprise, asking if he is actually eating while driving. Chewing noises mixed with the howling wind instantly gave him away. Faye admits to eating a sausage, asking how things are going over there. The caller laughs, genuinely amazed that anyone could ride and eat at the same time. Cutting straight to the point, the guy proposes a simple trade of crucial information. When asked how it works, the stranger outlines a fair, one-for-one question system. He takes the first turn, asking about the talent distribution of Faye's entire squad. Clicking his tongue, the caller complains that only rookies ask such basic questions. He explains that every team starts the same, with one random S-rank talent. The rest are distributed from a down to F, with F being the most common tier. Having confirmed this with multiple other teams, he proudly boasts about grabbing his team's S-rank. He practically begs for a compliment, but Faye ignores the bragging and moves on. Thanking him, Faye fires back his question, asking how many stations they cleared. The man stammers, laughing helplessly at the blunt query, before admitting he cleared 3. Pride creeps back into his voice, asking if Faye is impressed. His next question is how Faye can safely eat while riding through the waste. Faye replies that he is merely a passenger, riding inside a modified vehicle. Highly impressed, the guy yields the floor. After several rounds, the truth emerges. The caller is running a ruthless lone wolf mode with high-tier elites. They abandon their weaker teammates, murdering several just to secure an easy escape. Traveling light allows them to snatch up every resource, leaving no trail. 50. People's worth of resources upgraded their bikes, making them ridiculously strong. They cleared Station 3 already, while Faye remains on Station 2. He turns up the volume, allowing the rest of the convoy to hear. Hearing this brutal strategy causes a heavy, tense silence to fall over his teammates. Horrifying, but the man is ahead and knows far more. Faye trades his own secrets for one final, incredibly valuable piece of intel. A synthesis platform awaits at the 3rd station, designed for crafting equipment. It can fuse 2 similar items into a much higher tier, a massive shift. But it might be hidden, and a dangerous threat guards it. There are 5 to 10 dried corpse guards, depending on overall strength. He clearly has real combat talent, since he managed to defeat them. After 10 minutes of questioning, the man suddenly pauses on the radio. He claims he hears a woman's voice, realizing they still have female teammates. The team's casual chatter leaked through. Faye takes a sip of water, replying calmly. The stranger sighs, admitting he killed his own female ally for stealing his crystal. Faye's interest is piqued. A mysterious crystal ball is entirely new to him. Just then, Nubbing shouts that the upcoming turn is full of sand. She warns them to slow down, but the stranger interrupts again with suspicion. He demandingly asks how many teammates are still alive in Faye's group. Having heard multiple female voices, he doubts their bike can carry everyone. The tone over the walkie-talkie shifts to a dark, menacing intensity. Faye answers honestly, stating everyone is alive. The stranger barks in disbelief. He screams that it is a flat-out lie, his voice cracking. Faye calmly reassures him there is absolutely no logical reason to lie about their survival. Silence, then the man suddenly flies into a completely unhinged rage. He calls Faye a complete idiot, demanding to know how they expect to survive carrying dead weight. He mocks Faye for playing the savior. His insults cross the line. Hearing this, a furious Dongyan snaps. She hates his arrogant attitude and yells directly into the radio. She tells him to mind his business because they are doing great. She calls him a miserable killer who is likely terrified of fighting solo. It serves him right, and no matter how much powerful gear he has, he will walk a lonely road to his death, the stranger roars. Her words hit a painful nerve, sending him into an absolute frenzy. A heavy thud echoes through the receiver as he slams something down. He screams a violent threat of revenge, but Faye instantly cuts the connection off. There is simply no point in listening to his unhinged, crazy rambling. The guy is clearly broken after slaughtering his own former allies. Dong Yan mumbles an apology to Brother Fei, feeling quite guilty. Her temper cost them potential information, but Fei just shakes his head. He smiles. Nobody could have predicted the stranger was that easily triggered. Dong Yan sticks her tongue out, playfully admitting the guy was insane. Beside them, Song listens quietly with a thin, highly complex expression. She softly observes that the cruel world is ultimately to blame. They have no right to judge him. Without Fei, she notes their own situation would be no better given how little time everyone had to react. In absolute panic, people make extreme, terrible choices that they immediately regret. He had no choice but to continue down that dark, lonely path. Hearing about a successful group on the opposite path completely broke him. Her words hit home. If Fei had not forced them to unite, establishing rules and sharing vital resources, they would be killing each other. Many would have perished over supplies, and survivors would be bitter enemies. Thinking of this, the allies feel incredibly grateful for Fei's leadership. Suddenly, Nang Chu mentions that the unhinged stranger screamed one final warning. From the third row on the left, a voice warns that all convoys eventually merge onto one single road. She wonders aloud if this is a genuine warning or a threat. True or not, he tells her, they can easily ask around since he is not the only source. He swaps shifts with Na Bing, taking the wheel himself while she grabs the walkie-talkie and starts dialing through frequencies. The heavy crackle of static comes and goes, sometimes mixed with muffled voices, and they quickly notice a clear pattern. Every single convoy they can connect to seems to have a specific eye. Starting with 3, Convoy 302, Convoy 333. The radio only connects nearby channels. Suddenly, they accidentally bump into that hot-tempered Convoy 300 again, the moment the guy hears her familiar voice. He recognizes them and unleashes a furious barrage of curses. Na Bing's face remains totally blank. Her fingertips lightly click the knob, instantly switching over to the next channel. After testing it out, they confirm that contactable teams only cycle within the 300 to 399 range. Still, this info is incredibly valuable. Piecing everything together, one crucial detail comes into focus. At the 4th station, all convoys will converge onto the exact same road. The massive threat is obvious. Conditions differ for the other teams, though. Some report blistering hot temperatures, while others report violent winds. That last tiny detail immediately catches his attention. Strong winds require extreme caution. If a massive sandstorm sweeps through this dry desert, flying stones like lethal bullets can easily kill people for real. Can someone really move that fast? Dong Yuan asks, already at the 4th station. He tells her it might be a specialized speed talent, or a system build fully min-maxed. At any cost, adding that pure speed is not always a good thing. They are not in a rush to die. In this game, the smartest play is to scrape every station completely clean and maximize utility, as long as they keep their distance from the monsters chasing behind them. They have plenty of time to rest at an oasis, which is way safer than blindly racing ahead. Then, he stops to reconsider. That logic only works for a united team. For a desperate lone wolf or suspicious convoy, survival means reaching the next station first to monopolize all the resources. Another hour slips away. A system notification suddenly flashes before him. Just 20 kilometers to the next station, the ancient village ruins, roughly half an hour out. Dong Yuan says with eager anticipation, wondering what this next station will look like. Song gasping for breath as she pedals furiously, desperately prays for water. She is sticky all over and utterly miserable. Although the convoy runs on shifts, the active crew still pour everything into keeping their speed as fast as possible to widen the gap with the monsters, buying them more time to search and rest at the next stop. The main goal is to stay long at stations and move fast on the road. There probably will not be much water, he tells her, looking back. Maybe none. Her hopes of a bath are ruined. Then he notices Songa has somehow used her dagger to modify her loose jacket, cutting the fabric into strips and wrapping her chest like bandages, leaving the rest of her skin exposed to the heat. The makeshift outfit is clever, looks great, and keeps her highly mobile. This former city beauty now wears the fierce air of a true wasteland survivor. Looking back, he sees plenty of other women have made similar adjustments. The team outfits are all evolving toward pure utility. Nobody throws away the cut fabric, keeping every piece. He packs it away carefully. There is no telling if they will get more clothes later. If their current clothes get ruined, even sun protection becomes a problem. During future explorations, No Way Song-a moans, her chest heavily rising and falling. Sweat slides down her neck into the gaps of her wrapped fabric. He grips the wheel and asks if she noticed they have been going slowly uphill. The entire way, the terrain is rising and underground rivers do not survive in places like this. The next stretch is likely even more arid. They have to ration their fresh water and save every drop they can. She looks up at him and admits he knows so much, but he quickly disagrees. It just relates to his college major in geology, which she finds incredibly useful. She asks if he can read this world's desert, but he only knows surface details. This alien world is completely different from Earth, making his geology knowledge hard to apply. Still, if this is a planet, they are likely in the southern hemisphere. This planet is extremely dry, and most of it is probably just desert. When she asks how he knows, he points out the swirling dust vortices. Clockwise rotation happens here in the southern hemisphere without any external interference. The small dust devils forming outside are spinning the exact same way. He shares this quick science fact, though he doubts it will help them right now. With a sigh, his eyes drift over the dunes as small whirlwinds kick up. Dust rises and fades. He realizes the wind has been getting much stronger. Those dust devils are popping up everywhere now. This is already the third one. His heart sinks. Could a massive sandstorm be brewing out there in the heat? In this brutal desert that is life or death, he screams for everyone to stop. The bikes screech, leaving long black skid marks, and he immediately jumps off to investigate. Running to the roadside, he calls over the scouts with enhanced vision and hearing. He orders them to check the horizon for anything odd and listen for strong winds. Then he crouches down to examine the dunes, knowing large dunes mean weaker winds. But these dunes are all small and continuous, meaning they face constant, harsh winds. Looking at the slopes, he can easily determine the wind's direction. After a moment, he points toward the source of the prevailing winds. He tells the scouts to focus there just as a sudden cool gust sweeps by. Feeling the chill, he quickly checks his status panel to confirm his fears. Temperature 47, ground 53, convoy 341, population 50. It was 49 earlier. The temperature is dropping fast along with the pressure. He immediately screams for everyone to get back on board and sprint. A massive sandstorm is coming, and the warning signs are absolutely clear. The two scouts have not spotted anything yet, but he cannot afford to gamble. They must move. The only way to survive this is to find shelter. Staying in the open means certain death. Hearing his warning, the entire team panics. 50 pairs of legs hammer the pedals, sending their speed surging. Steering instantly becomes a nightmare. One slip will flip their entire rig. Heavy pressure falls on him, and now as they control the wheel, after 5 or 6 minutes of full sprinting, the young scout suddenly screams in terror. She sees it. The horizon is turning pitch black, like a massive mountain collapsing. Her voice is pure panic, but he yells back for everyone to stay calm. He urges everyone to sprint, push harder. They will reach those ruins soon. Any standing walls or crumbling houses will do. Just give them some shelter. The wind rises violently. Harsh grit starts clattering loud against their bicycle frame. It plays a steady, terrifying drumbeat. He does not need a hearing specialist not to understand exactly what that low rumbling beneath the gale represents. The sandstorm is closing, fast. The sky darkens as if someone dimmed the sun. Pressure drops. His ears pop instantly. A heavy, suffocating weight lands directly onto his chest. No normal world ever bred a storm this monstrous. He keeps his grip tight. He warns himself not to force any more speed out of their desperate run. One slip from Nubbing's old driver's skill would send their entire ride spinning. This makeshift bus of survivors would flip right into the dunes. Nubbing holds. She keeps them on track through raw talent. Without her stats, they fail. The combined bike would have crashed a kilometer back when the wind rose. Blinding dust flies thick around them. He pedals on, thighs burning with exhaustion. Sand shreds their exposed skin. Behind him, Dongyan suddenly cries out in pain. A sharp projectile cuts her deep, but she bites her lip and pushes on. No way, he is quitting first. Suddenly, Nubbing shouts, almost there. Her voice sends a sudden jolt of electricity straight through the desperate team. Peer through the yellow haze. A ruined wall and a few dead trees appear. The second his eyes lock onto them, a system notification pops up clearly. An abandoned village lies ahead, packed with resources, upgrade materials, and a rare prize. 2 mummified corpses guard the central square, protecting a mysterious shop. The monsters are deep inside, not at the border. Good, that works. He veers sharply toward the broken wall and bellows for everyone to hold on. They leave the pavement behind. Their heavy vehicle sinks instantly into deep sand. They quickly abandon the ride. The girls scramble toward the safety of the ruins. He is almost safe when a strange shift in the howling wind makes him turn. Fear strikes hard. Dong Yan and Song Ah are still trapped by the bicycle. A towering wall of sand races toward them. Dong Yan is barely moving at all. Thick grit shreds his skin as he charges straight back into the blinding storm. She swore her loyalty to him. That makes her his absolute responsibility now. With Song Ah right beside her, he refuses to let either of them die. He fights his way through the violent gale and spots Song Ah ahead. She is desperately pulling Dong Yan by the arms, screaming into the void. The wind swallows her voice. Dong Yan is stiff, dried corpse poison. Realization hits. A toxic wound is oozing black fluid on the outside of her left thigh. Thick black blood stains her clothes. A betrayal. Someone in their group did this. They use the chaos to strike her down. Talk about a brutal betrayal. Dong Yan attempts to heal herself, a faint white light glowing on her palm. But recovery takes precious time, and they have absolutely none left to spare. He orders Song Ah to run ahead, scooping the paralyzed Dong Yan into his arms. He charges toward the stone ruins, head down as everything around them turns yellow. Song Ah disappears in the storm, but her hand suddenly reaches back out. She grabs his sleeve, pulling them the final few steps behind the wall. He places Dong Yan down and shields her with his body as chaos strikes. The storm arrives, sounding like rain made of heavy stones. Every hit on his back lands with a separate sting, and he presses himself flatter, trying his best not to count them. Dong Yon stops her healing under him. Her breathing evens out. Her cheek feels warm against the inside of his collar, giving him the strange feeling that she has decided he is safe. Fine, as long as she is alive, she can think whatever she wants. The howling finally fades. He pushes up off her, and the moment he straightens, he has to suck air through his teeth, every single patch of skin on his arms and chest is bleeding in thin lines from 100 tiny cuts. He cannot see his back, but can feel it, and the answer is definitely worse. The other survivors come stumbling out of the wind breaks one by one, covered in dust with half of them bleeding. The dead tree at the front of the village is studded with sharp stone splinters all up one side like a sandblasted hedgehog. Just a few seconds slower and he would be dead. He lets Dong Yon work her healing on his worst cuts while calling together the 5 women he trusts most. They're rank and B-rank talent holders, he tells lowly to get him an axe, then orders Nangchu, Song Ah, and Nub Bing to gather the team. For a head count, everyone is present. Nobody breathes. Song Ah is the one who says it out loud. A traitor in their team tried to murder Dong Yon with dried corpse poison and almost succeeded. He lets the heavy silence stretch a beat, then tells whoever did it to step forward on their own. Nobody moves, so he looks at the girl with the scent talent, walks the line, checking them one by one. She stops next to Nang Chu, hesitates, and glances at him to make sure he wants her to keep going, then points. Nang Chu, who is standing right next to his elbow, half the team makes a noise of disbelief. Nang Chu has the kind of talent and personality that would make a frame attempt this dumb, and she and Dong Yon were incredibly close, but when 2 women search her pockets, they pull out a section of a dried corpse finger wrapped in cloth, with fresh red blood still on it. Loli lifts her axe, then Nang Chu speaks calmly, looking right at him. She tells him that he knows her. She has no reason to do this, and she could not possibly be that stupid. He nods because he hasn't doubted her for a second. Even in the worst scenario, with Dong Yon still alive, Nang Chu would never have left the murder weapon in her own pocket. Somebody else slipped it in there during the sandstorm. As he thinks this, the system answers him directly. The murderer who tried to kill Dong Yon is Mun Ryang, the woman who has been pushing back against him from the start. He thought she had settled down. Wrong, she was waiting like a snake for the right moment. Mun Ryang picked the perfect moment too, because if Song Ah had not found Dong Yon first, Dong Yon would have died in the sandstorm, and once she was gone, no one else had healing for corpse poison, which would have left him next on the list. His voice gets cold. He takes the axe out of Loli's hand and tells Mun Ryang to come out. Crowd backs to either side and exposes her. She immediately launches into her defense before he gets a word out, screaming that he framed her and that he is clearing out anyone who disagrees with him, claiming this whole assassination was just staged so he Could purge people. She points at Dong Yeon and shrieks that her skin is too clean, her clothes too neat, that she does not even look like someone who got hit by a sandstorm, and that the team has been giving her preferential treatment. The whole way, a few faces in the crowd flicker. Her accusation of mind control lands exactly the way she wanted. She does not stop. She tells everyone that today Bai makes up a reason to kill her, and tomorrow he makes one up for any of them, claiming his hint talent is no different from a cheap fortune teller's, that anything he says becomes absolute truth, meaning they die when he names them. She tells the women that this is exactly what men do once they gain power. She straightens her back like she is ready for martyrdom, and the play almost works. Watching her Bai feels only pure absurdity. Some people will live and die by the rules of the old world. They think they can flip right and wrong by playing on emotions and twisting words to shame the room. They never truly understood what power actually is. Power is about controlling violence, about how many people are afraid of him and how many benefit from standing by his side. And her game only ever worked because peacetime had rules to exploit and loopholes to hide in. He does not need a reason to let her die. Did she really think every arrangement and every rescue along the way was him acting like a saint? Dong Yeon is shaking with rage next to him. She lays into Mun Yong about saving her on the road, about Nang Chu sharing water with her, demanding to know if she is even human. She is genuinely stunned that anyone could do this, because she had been telling herself that if she just treated everyone well, they would all pull together to survive. Mun Yong's face goes pale, then she switches gears and drops to her knees with a thud, crying and calling Dong Yeon miss, begging her to show some conscience and stop siding with the tyrant. She cries so hard that some of the softer-hearted women start to look highly uncertain. Dong Yeon wavers for a second, being exactly the kind of soft-hearted girl who cannot stand watching another woman cry, but then she shakes her head hard. She has decided one key thing: Bai is reliable. If he says it was Mun Yong, then it was Mun Yong. She calls her a snake and tells her she is a real actress. Eyes red, even though she cannot expose the act. Bai watches the room and lets it run. He is the de facto team leader with a core group behind him, and he has 1,000 ways to put Mun Yong in the ground. There is no rush. This whole episode is teaching him that there are bad apples in the team, which is not surprising because human nature is complicated and not everyone is worth saving. When the team first formed, he did not have time to read everyone. Now he gets to see exactly who shows their teeth and who closes ranks. The room closes ranks. A tall girl shouts first that slandering Brother Bai is making an enemy of her. Another voice trembles with anger, saying that without him, they would all have died in that storm. People are not stupid. They have watched her own hard work the entire way, clues or not. Right then, a short-haired girl with a nasty temper walks right up and slaps Mun Yong across the face, telling her she has no right to act so hardworking when Dong Yeon, Na Bai, and Namju are out here risking their lives. Mun Yong staggers, clutching her stinging cheek, muttering that they are all cowards who only bully the weak and fear the strong, promising they will regret this. That is when Namju, who has been silent the entire time, finally speaks up. She asks the crowd why they cannot just look at the facts calmly instead of fighting with pure emotion. Suddenly, everyone. She looks at Bai, who nods. Namju reminds them about the bloody finger in her own pocket. She says human blood does not lie, then asks Bai to lay out exactly how he saved Dong Yeon. He tells it straight, and Namju calmly stitches it together. When Bai carried Dong Yeon in his arms, his right forearm wrapped under her legs and the deep wound on her thigh pressed right against the inside of his forearm. She walks over, lifts his arm and shows everyone the dark stain of poisoned blood on his skin. She explains that if he had faked any of this, he would never have risked his own body to do it, and that Dong Yeon looks unmarked because she was healed and because she spent the storm under him. It is the kind of analysis the rest of the team would have figured out eventually, but the way Namju speaks, soft, steady, and giving the room a clear path, that is what is truly impressive. She takes the floor without openly demanding it. Mun Yong's face stiffens. She tries one more time, arguing that even if all of that is true, it does not prove she is the killer. Nam Ju's gaze turns slow and her tone stays level. She tells everyone she has only said all of this so nobody walks away with bad feelings, mainly so Brother Bai and Dong Yeon are not insulted. Then she pauses and quotes Lu Zun's words that he who carries firewood for the crowd must not be left to freeze in the snow, and she Says the same applies here. Brother Bai has earned the trust he is owed. Then she turns back to Mun Yong and her eyes go cold, asking if she really thought she wanted to prove her guilty. Mun Yong stares. Nam Ju's voice drops. She says it is the apocalypse. Why would she need to prove anything? She's still on the clock at work. She draws a dagger from her waist and the calm slides off her face all at once. She calls Mun Yong a stinking, gossiping liar, telling her she is going to slice her mouth to pieces. She charges before finishing her sentence. Mun Yong stands frozen until the dagger slashes across her cheek. She screams and flees. 2 steps and Nam Ju drives the blade into her lower back. Mun Yong stumbles into the ruined village. Losing her way in the agony, she runs blind straight into 2 desert-dried corpses. Guarding the wonder, by the time the team works together to bring those monsters down, Mun Yong has already been bit and collapsed from the poison. When Dong Yeon sees Mun Yong's corpse, with intestines spilled across the sand, she doubles over and vomits on the spot. The reaction ripples through the team like a signal, leaving half of them heaving in seconds. Nam Ju insists loudly that everyone must look closely and adapt to corpses in this apocalypse. Bai looks just long enough to feel the foul stench hit his throat, then turns away to settle his stomach. Then he tells Nam Ju that she is truly built different since she did not even heave. Nam Ju looks at him and vomits directly onto him. That breaks him, and he vomits right back. They both double over and just keep going. Bai had eaten too much earlier and worked too hard for any of it to digest. Now everything comes gushing out, exposing every single piece of fish and apple he had swallowed. When Bai looks up, he spots a piece of corn stuck to Nam Ju's nose. From his splashback, the whole scene is completely disgusting, yet somehow that is why he starts laughing. Nam Ju glares at him, both annoyed and amused. Nang Chu groans. She almost held it in until his mouth opened. Now she is sick again. Done first, he grabs his canteen, rinsing the bitter burn right out of his mouth. He strips off his filthy shirt. Sitting straight down in the sand, he aggressively scrubs. Dry sand bathing. It actually works shockingly well to clean off all the vomit. The grit absorbs the filth and flakes right off, leaving clean skin behind as he only needs a quick splash of water. Nang Chu watches him. She turns away. She does the exact same thing. He shakes his shirt out, pulling it back on. Taking a deep breath, he finally feels clean air for the first time in an hour. He steps over Mun Ryong's cold body, heading toward the shop. Nang Chu was right. Facing death is key. Run from it now, and it will only catch you later. It catches you off guard. This shop is the only sturdy granite building left. Its walls are fully intact. Inside, the empty display cabinets are lined in rows. He spots a few stray bottles on the floor and walks straight to the back. Gathering loot is Song Ah's job. She is the only one allowed to scavenge. Others only flag items. Her insane, unbelievable luck multiplies whatever she actually picks up. An empty-looking bottle becomes a treasure. Same logic for those dried cores outside. Finding only 2 instead of 5 is much better than what other squads report. Song Ah lowers the difficulty tier of their run just by standing in the team. The real prize is in the back room. A hexagonal stone platform stands waiting. It is 1 meter high, half a meter across, and polished incredibly smooth. The surface reflects the dim light like gray marble. His eyes instantly light up. He steps forward and presses his palm down. Clean system text drops into his head. The prompt congratulates him on finding a rare synthesis platform that crafts weapons and gear with the right blueprints. He must figure out the rest. This thing is a divine artifact. Now the squad can make their own gear. He has heard enough walkie-talkie chatter to know exactly what to test first. He grabs a fist-sized rough stone from the corner and a piece of deadwood about as long as his forearm. He sets both right on the platform edge. Taking a breath, he presses his hand down. The ancient platform hums, glowing bright. A soft milky light ripples outward. Then it folds inward, wrapping the materials. He focuses on them and silently executes the command. Instantly, the 2 pieces float and rotate inside the glowing light, drawing close to twist and fuse. When the light fades, a crude stone hand axe is resting in the center. A system notification confirms he crafted a rough stone axe. The stone head is shaped with a sharp working edge, fitted snugly into the wooden handle. The handle has a nice natural curl for an easier grip. He picks it up. He swings, the blade whistles clean through the air. He tests it on wood. It bites a deep gash, but a visible chip breaks off the stone head. Poor durability, but it works. Right then, Song Ah walks in with others. He tells her to help him load the platform onto the bike. She beams. She rushes over, asking if this is the legendary walkie-talkie synthesis platform. He hands her the axe. She weighs it in her hand. Pretty heavy, she notes, nodding at how clever it is to make a weapon using simple stone. She says if everyone had a few, they could throw them at dried corpses. He warns her that throwing takes serious skill, but she just shakes her head. He knows they need spears. A 3-meter blade can easily keep a dozen corpses at bay. It is the perfect weapon for ordinary people. Alongside 5 girls, he drags the platform outside. The thing weighs 500 or 600 caddies and its shape gives them zero leverage, requiring their combined strength. Outside, under neighing Cho's direction, the team has already dug the buried bicycles out from the sand. The tin roofs are completely gone, ripped away by the brutal storm. He looks up at the sun. It has been hanging straight overhead for far too long. The others quickly confirm his suspicion. According to the clock, it is already afternoon, meaning the sun should be drifting west, but it is not. Checking his panel, the current desert temperature reads 52 degrees Celsius. Ground temperature is 59, convoy 341, head count 49, a helpful hint. Warns him that peak temperatures can reach 55. Traveling without a sunshade is suicide. Even with shade, the heat is brutal. Without it, touching the metal on the bikes is impossible because the steel is scalding. Right on cue, a tire violently bursts from the heat. He immediately barks orders for the team to deflate the rest, and they move incredibly fast. Naing Cho is deeply worried. Simple rubber cannot survive this. The tires will explode one by one. He shares the concern, but points out the lack of canopies is worse. Naing Cho suggests using wood since they have an axe, dead trees, and plenty of salvageable timber in the village ruins. He quickly splits the work, distributing their scarce tools. Half will fell trees while the others scavenge. He touches a bike to let the system evaluate his options. It confirms a canopy can be crafted, but the material cost is absolutely ridiculous. Seriously, who designed these recipes? Just then, a survivor emerges from a nearby shop clutching wooden shelves. Curiously, a single pre-cut board easily upgrades a canopy. The lesson is clear. Raw logs waste 3 times more material than processed planks. He cannot let that waste continue. He walks over to the synthesis platform, resting in the shade, and places his hand on it, attempting to process some wood. The machine hums as a strange light envelops the timber. What drops out is merely a tiny useless chunk, a total failure. Meanwhile, chatter over the radio suggests that players must know the exact formula beforehand, as the platform strictly follows rigid rules. This system is not flexible like a normal workshop. It is a mysterious refining machine governed by strict laws. More efficient methods surely exist, perhaps unlocked by specific talents. He suddenly recalls a team member with a C-rank engineering ability. If his memory serves him right, she possesses a unique small probability bonus when it comes to crafting items. Without blueprints, survivors must waste precious materials on tedious trial and error to discover recipes. Then, a brand new set of glowing hints manifests before his eyes. They show craftable items. A stone axe requires 1 stone plus 1 wood, while a stone spear requires 1 stone plus 3 wood. A wooden board equals 2 wood. A telephone needs 2 walkie-talkies. An enhanced iron pickaxe takes 2 normal ones. His eyes gleam. Hints win again. With the formulas laid bare, he drops 2 pieces of wood onto the platform. The light hums, producing a perfect wooden board exactly 1 centimeter thick, which is the ideal size to upgrade their bicycle canopies. He calls Jiang Xian over, their talented engineer, assigning her complete control of the synthesis device. She nods enthusiastically, her eyes shining with excitement as she realizes operating it will level up her proficiency and steadily unlock her full potential. The chance of a doubled output, but she catches herself and warns him that without a proper formula, trial and error will burn through too many resources. He hands her a wooden board carved with over a dozen synthesis formulas. She stares blankly, then looks up at him. He smiles, telling her to just follow this since everything they can make with their current stock is right there. And wishes her luck. She nods eagerly, promising to do her best, and as he turns away, her cheeks flush slightly. This is the very first time she has spoken to him alone, and she has finally been given a real role. Yet, anxiety fills her eyes. The next second, if the recipes are already on a board, what is her engineer talent even for? She had better find a way to work harder if she wants to keep her spot. He heads over to the woodcutters. They pulled several iron axes out of the Oasis earlier making short work of the trunks, but the dead wood here is so hard that the metal blades clang and ring, sending a shock that numbs his hands. If the angle is off, the heavy axe almost leaps straight out of his grip. One girl has a D-rank gathering talent, the kind that looks pretty useless if you are playing solo, because what good is knowing how to chop wood when you cannot survive the trip, but in a team it is gold, even though his speed is twice her output matches his because gathering sometimes doubles or even triples the yield. He hands her his half-chopped tree and switches to a patrol of the ruins. While walking around the village, he chats with the girls who had spoken up for him earlier, the ones who slapped Munyong or called her out. Everyone works equally hard, but those with steadier personalities, more loyalty and more optimism deserve more opportunities. That rule is becoming clear. To him, honestly, leadership changes a person. He used to fantasize about picking by talent. But once he had to lead, he learned that loyalty must come first, because the next backstab will not give him the same warning Munyong did. The disloyal can be useful, but they can never be trusted in a critical seat. This is not the moment for promotions, though. Right now, he is just listening, watching, and learning who each of them really is. For 30 minutes, people keep coming to him with small problems. Then Song-ah returns from her sweep with the search team, and the hall is massive: a wrench, a crowbar, a bottle of iodoform, and alcohol from one room. They also pried open a hidden basement with food, 3 short steel knives, 2 crude iron ingots, and basic parts. He presses the platform and new recipes appear. An iron axe equals 2 crude iron ingots plus 1 wood iron spear equals 2 plus 3. A Molotov cocktail equals 1 alcohol bottle plus 1 cloth. Crude iron ingots can refine into standard iron at 2 to 1. The Molotov recipe makes him grin. With ground temperatures this high, they do not even need a flame. The cocktail will ignite on impact alone. That is their first real weapon. Song-ah leans in close to his ear and whispers that there seems to be another secret compartment under the basement. She feels like there are better things down there, but did not want to mention it with others around. The betrayal with Dong Yan has spooked her. She did not have anyone she absolutely trusted right next to her, so she kept her mouth shut and came straight back to him. He asks whether she chose to wait for him or if she just instinctively felt it was wrong to bring it up. She pauses to think before answering. He laughs, saying it is probably both, and that her insane luck is finally kicking in. He advises her to trust her gut from now on and let everything else fall into place. She grins, asking if that means she can just empty her head and stop thinking. He replies that sometimes it actually works like that, and her simple mind is pretty comforting. He takes Dong Yan and Loli with him, since having a healer is absolutely essential. Loli is fast and handy in a fight, so he tells Nang Chu and the group where he is headed, so they do not worry. The basement is just a dusty old grain cellar, but when he taps the floor, one specific spot sounds completely hollow. A system hint pops up. Almost immediately, a hidden cellar built by the owner for shady dealings. Below lies a trapped, dried corpse, several other bodies, and some mysterious treasures. The mechanism switch is hidden right behind a loose brick near the entrance. He walks over, feels along the wall, pulls out the loose brick, and yanks the heavy iron chain hidden behind it. The mechanism turns with a heavy, dull click, and the cellar floor slides aside, revealing a narrow passage going straight down. A foul, rotten stench blasts them, and Loli pinches her nose, whispering that there must be treasure, since a strange light is already flickering deep down the stairs. He grabs her shoulder before she can recklessly charge ahead, telling her to let Song-ah lead the way. Half joking, he says Song-ah has the kind of luck that prevents her from dying, so she should trigger any traps first. Loli sticks out her tongue and nods. They carefully file down the steps as the air grows heavy and thick with the stench of rust and mold. When the flashlight sweeps across the darkness, the 3 girls scream in unison and crowd close to him. Honestly, who can blame them? His own heart skips. In the beam, a dried corpse with a sliced open stomach is sprawled across a crude wooden table. The flesh has dried and blackened over time, but the gruesome wound and twisted limbs still carry a spine-chilling horror. Nearby, a rusty iron cage sits in the dark, and whatever is locked inside slowly lifts its head. It is another dried corpse, but this one seems incredibly weak and frail. It does not roar or struggle, simply staring at them with hollow, empty sockets. Above the cage, a mysterious crystal ball floats, casting a soft, gentle light. This must be the glowing treasure they spotted from the top of the stairs. He reaches up, pulls it down, and system details flood into his mind. It is a mysterious crystal ball, and consuming it grants one random attribute point. His heart leaps, knowing how rare this strategic treasure is. No wonder that smug guy from Convoy 300 bragged about it over the radio. He dropped a hint but refused to explain further, and now the secret is out. Without hesitation, he hands the ball to Song-ah, who exhales a soft sigh. She whispers that she finally understands why someone would betray their own team for this. It is simply too precious, and the fact that he gave it away so easily hits her heart harder than the treasure itself. In a world this brutal, complete and unreserved trust brings far more comfort than any raw power ever could. She smiles, looking down shyly, and leans in close to whisper to him. The four of them take turns holding the sphere, absolutely shocked by its potential. This shared secret quietly binds them together, creating a private circle within their group. Suddenly, the iron cage rattles with a loud roar. He quickly looks back. The moment the ball was taken, the weak corpse violently thrashed against the bars. He sets the ball back down, and the corpse instantly slumps, even recoils slightly. When he lifts it, the monster roars. He sets it down, and the creature falls silent. After a few tries, he confirms its secret function. This crystal ball suppresses the dried corpse. But the range is short, with a delay of a second or two, making it useless in battle. Inertia alone would let a pouncing corpse slash him before the suppression even kicks in. So he hands the ball to Song-ah, telling her they will make a final decision later. Back upstairs, they will decide who gets to use it. He does not even consider keeping it. He has no idea what kind of buff it actually grants anyway. Meanwhile, during their search, inside the dark cellar, Song-ah spots an old hand-cranked mechanical generator in the corner. This instantly solves their lithium battery issue in one single go. With this handy tool, they can finally run the electric motor for the next leg, allowing everyone to breathe easier. He had originally planned on crafting a kinetic device from scratch, but lacked the materials. Now he has a perfect, ready-made solution right in front of him. Then his eyes drift back to the weak corpse in the cage, sparking a very bold idea. After confirming the cellar is completely cleared out, they drag the heavy cage up with chains. The awful stench of rot clings to them as they reach the surface and run straight into Nubbing's resource team. The scavengers quickly crowd the caged corpse, half terrified and half curious. They stare as if looking at a zoo animal. He explains their discovery and tells everyone to stay alert for what comes next when the cleanup begins. Right then, he notices something odd. Song-ah's hands are completely empty. Where is the orb? He glances at Loli and Dong-yan. The three girls are wearing almost nothing, their tops barely covering them. There is simply no room for a large orb once they step into a shaded corner. With no other eyes watching them, he asks her about it quietly. Song-ah scans their surroundings. To ensure no outsiders are paying attention, she slowly turns her back and reaches down, with 2 fingers into the bandages wrapped around her chest, pulling out the crystal orb. She offers a shy, apologetic smile, explaining that she ran into too many people. Far too quickly, since the item was glowing faintly, she had nowhere else to stash it. She gently drops the sphere into his hand. It is still warm from her body heat. He cannot help but look at her cloth-wrapped chest rising and falling with deep respect. This crystal sphere is only the size of a fingernail and incredibly smooth, like a marble. An average survivor would have dropped it on their very first step, yet Song-ah safely hid the item, walked all this way, and acted completely normal the entire time. Her cheeks flush bright red under his intense gaze, and she shifts her weight nervously. Dong-yan and the other girl give her highly envious thumbs up, while Loli quietly mutters that she completely underestimated her. He holds the sphere up against the bright sunlight. A slow, breathtaking field of stars is rotating inside. It is genuinely a beautiful sight. He ponders aloud about who should receive the item, and a system notification suddenly appears. This mysterious crystal ball actually provides a flat +1 bonus to the user's strength. He almost bursts out laughing. Only 1 point. Still, it is better than nothing. And since his strength is already at 12, another point is great but not game-changing. Either way, this makes choosing a recipient incredibly simple. Who needs the extra muscle most? When he shares the stats with Song-ah and the team, they all look back smiling. Song-ah, Dong-yan, and Loli speak up one after the other, telling him to keep the orb since he is their main fighter and the ultimate team multiplier. He feels deeply moved. After all, a free attribute point is a massive deal. It's extremely rare. They only found one in a hidden room, meaning a convoy probably. It's just one ball per stop if they find the room. Most never do. He nods and promises not to be polite about it, but he doesn't use it yet, wrapping the ball in cloth. He walks up to the caged corpse. Instantly, the monster freezes like a wooden toy. He orders the others to open the cage and chain its hands and feet, using iron from the cellar. Next, he takes a crowbar and knocks out every single one of its teeth, jamming a wooden gag inside to stop any biting. He chops both hands off at the wrists. They drag the neutered corpse to the rear of the bicycle, lashing it tightly between wooden boards and poles like a mule on a yoke. It can only step forward in the harness, groaning softly, and because someone sits directly in front of it, it instinctively follows. The combined vehicle actually rolls forward a bit under its push. The entire team stares in disbelief, then bursts out laughing. Lolly clutches her stomach, doubled over in hysterics. Song-ah covers her mouth to giggle, her eyes glued to him with pure admiration. Even in this absolute hell, he can build something so absurd that it makes everyone laugh. Ever since she pledged unconditional trust, she keeps finding him more pleasing to look at. The worse the situation gets, the better his character shines to her. She thinks that being randomly assigned to his team was incredibly lucky. She had the worst luck before this started, but now she is the luckiest because he rebuilt her life entirely. She remembers the morning she stood right in front of him, completely exposed without realizing, and how he gave her the cloth strips she still wears. Today, her face flushes bright red, yet her eyes stay fixed on him. Her gaze drops to the cloth bundle in his hand, and a sudden idea strikes her like a bolt of inspiration. She wonders if she can bless him with extra luck so when he uses that crystal ball, it triggers a better effect. Meanwhile, the team is howling. Someone calls it the dried corpse perpetual motion machine, a giant leap for mankind indeed. Once the laughter dies down, they realize it is too crude to be highly functional. The corpse cannot push this heavy vehicle alone, and once they are traveling at 40 kilometers an hour, it cannot keep pace anyway. But this is only step one. He presses his palm to the bike and begins the real upgrade. The platform's light envelops the generator, the corpse's harness, and a crude iron ingot all together. He executes the upgrade. The system quickly confirms consumed 1 generator, 1 box of basic parts, 1 crude iron ingot, and the harness. Obtained a dried corpse crawler type generator. The device uses the corpse's constant running to spin tracks, turning the generator and continuously charging the lithium battery. This extends their travel range in motor assist mode and supports kinetic recovery from the axle on downhills, the entire contraption integrating the corpse generator, lithium battery, electric motor, and bicycle is finally one unified machine. Strictly speaking, it is completely environmentally friendly, a dried corpse running endlessly to generate electricity, paired with regenerative braking. Theoretically, that is 0 fuel per 100 kilometers. The corpse fears no heat, has incredible strength, and never sleeps, eats, or drinks, at least so far. Whether it actually needs food or how long it can run like this is a question he is not going to worry about right now. As long as it survives, he will. He works the machine to death, hoping to scavenge some spare parts later. Then he burns another crude iron ingot and some wood, transforming the spare bicycle into a stable loading platform. He shifts the synthesis platform onto it, lashing it securely with wooden planks. Nearby, Nangshu manages a second group, upgrading the wooden roofs. With his plan set, everyone gets a job. Some gather resources, others make boards, upgrade items, or transport. Total chaos here. But the non-stop stream of trivial questions starts to make him feel lightheaded. Managing people is never as easy as it looks on paper. You have to point a clear path and actually convince them. Plus, a larger crowd means constant minor issues bubbling to the surface. How many water bottles per person? Who scraped their knee? It is endless. Then someone started her period. Everyone comes to him, 48 people. If they each bring just one issue daily, that is 48 problems. He needs team leaders, fast, or he will collapse under the weight. Otherwise, the brutal dual drain of body and mind will break him. Once the camp system runs smoothly, he finally sits down and chugs half a water bottle. Song Ah, who is helping nearby, spots her chance and drifts over to him, her eyes curving into sweet crescents. She tells him she has a fun idea, making him ask what. She lowers her voice. The mysterious crystal ball granted him 1 strength point, but she has a feeling the yield is not fixed. Since she is incredibly lucky, maybe if he rubs Some of her fortune off, the ball's power will scale up. That pauses his train of thought. Sounds ridiculous. After all, the basic rules of the ball seemed completely set in stone, but Song Ah refuses to see it that way, to her until the item is used. Nothing is settled, it is just like an unopened treasure chest, and anything is possible inside, even a dinosaur in red underwear. With anyone else, the odds are zero, but with her, different story. Song Ah rewrites the rules. Anything she has not experienced has plenty of room to warp. Realizing this, he gets excited, tells her she is amazing then. Asks the obvious question, how is he supposed to actually rub off her luck? That is the catch. Her aura covers 100 meters, but it is entirely passive, meaning she has no way to actively bless him. Song Ah simply crosses her arms and grins at him. She cannot help with the details. She just had a hunch and brought it over, reminding him that he was the one who told her to clear her head and trust her instincts. She winks, calling this a gut decision. He gets it, the concept actually seems more promising the longer he dwells on it. So he pulls her into a secluded, empty house and takes the glowing ball out. It shimmers in his palm as she stands right in front of him. Suddenly, system prompts. Surface, the system detects Song Ah's luck, which can influence the crystal. Ball's final effect, if used under Song Ah's gaze, there is a chance of gaining +2 strength. If used while in Song Ah's sincere embrace, there is a chance of +3 and a high probability of +2 if it is used. With Song Ah's sincere kiss of blessing, there is a chance of +5 and a high probability of +4. Unbelievable. So this is how he can steal her luck. These conditions are not gentle though. It must be a completely sincere blessing from her heart. A formal act counts for nothing. Best case 5 points, 5 strength. Push him far beyond ordinary humans, letting him easily crush any dried corpse. Fighting barehanded, his combat power would skyrocket. The more he looks at those stats, the more he wants them. Then he looks at the girl standing in front of him and hesitates. It is not embarrassment. It is just that the prompt said if, and if it does not work, it is going to be incredibly awkward for them forever. But hesitating is not his style. He tells her the absolute truth. Her eyes go wide, asking if it can really work. He just smiles, telling her to trust her gut, and lets the look land. Her face flushes bright red as her words tangle, asking which option they are even choosing. Of course he is going all in. He does not say it, just looking at her. Her face gets redder, her heart spinning into a complete mess, things moving way too fast. Who is she? Where is she? Why did her gut hand her this? Suddenly she has to kiss him. He takes pity on her and suggests a hug instead. The key is sincerity. Going through the motions is useless anyway, and a sincere hug should not be that hard. She straightens. She tells him no, a kiss, like she has just made up her mind. Go big or go home. What is a mere hug? Before he can react, she gathers herself, rising onto her tiptoes and plants one on his cheek with a small Manhwa sound. Then she just stares at him, her head buzzing. He blinks at her. Wait, was she actually ready? She just kissed him right out of the gate. He has to ask. It has to be sincere, just now. Was she sincere? She stares blankly. Then her face goes beet red. She had been so nervous she went on autopilot, telling herself to just go for it before she could chicken out, forgetting the sincerity part entirely. Now there is nothing she can do but take a deep breath, close her eyes, and silently bless him with everything she has. Then she leans in again, slow and solemn, and her lips press softly against his cheek, warm, lingering for 2 or 3 seconds. Before pulling away, the crystal ball in his hand bursts into light, then dissolves into starlight that drifts down into his body. He has used a mysterious crystal ball and luckily obtained a perfect grade effect, +5 strength. He feels the power dump directly into him. He clenches his fist and the cuff of his short-sleeved shirt rips open at the seam. The muscles of his entire arm bulge, lines distinct, veins faintly showing, like he is one breath away from turning into the Hulk, a powerhouse bursting with raw, unbridled strength. The miraculous part is that the moment he unclenches, the exaggerated contours retract and his arm settles back to its normal slender shape, just with a much denser foundation. Under the skin, he lifts his shirt to look at his abdomen. Same story, the flat waist now shows the faint outlines of segmented blocks and a slight flexing brings out 8 visible plates, but his overall build does not look bulky or bloated. It stays lean, coordinated, and ready, just like a high-level athlete's body. Song Ah is still completely dazed from the kiss when the ripped shirt snaps her wake. Her eyes go wide, and her mouth forms an O. Those muscles are practically thicker than her entire thigh. She does not even need to touch them to know what they feel like, then he relaxes, the muscle thickness retracts, and he is back to being the tall, handsome, upright guy. Her gaze follows his shirt up to his abs. Smooth and distinct, packed with pure athletic power, making her stare blankly. For a brief moment, when he looks up, she quickly snaps her eyes away and changes the subject, asking if this is the power of the crystal ball. Yeah, he nods, pulling his torn shirt completely off and letting it drop. Sweat slides down his collarbone onto his pectorals and onto his abdomen, glinting in the bright sun coming right through the broken window. She goes lightheaded. A wave of warm masculine air washes over her, making her heart drum. And her face flushes. She has never seen this kind of physique in real life. He tests his arm, the air whistling as he swings. He tells her the stats say less than a 50% increase, but it feels like double, meaning the growth is not linear. He feels completely inexhaustible, with all fatigue gone. His body is fully refreshed. He tells her this is all thanks to her. Without her, he would still be smug over a 1.0 bonus, never knowing that a sincere kiss could quintuple the reward. She really is his lucky charm, making him wonder if kissing her before operating the synthesis platform would trigger a major success and quintuple his entire output. But the warmest part is something else. He just hit perfect on the highest tier of the prompt, meaning her kiss was genuine. She actually has feelings for him, and that thought is no longer just a fantasy or self-consolation. Even in a peaceful world, finding a friend who holds you in her heart is something worth celebrating, but in this harsh convoy, it is pure gold. The joy lands deeper than the 5 strength points, giving him absolute confidence about the road ahead. Right now, he can handle a dried corpse one-on-one. He wonders what kind of attribute the guy from Convoy 300 got and how many points. He is S rank, so there is a good chance they will meet him later. Stepping out of the house, he tests the synthesis platform, the massive machine that once took 6 people to carry. He can now lift completely on his own. It confirms his new monstrous strength. An hour later, the upgraded bike is ready, with the corpse generator mounted securely at the rear. The roof is now covered in wooden planks, with storage boxes strapped tightly around the vehicle for resources. Following Nobbing's smart suggestion, the survivors pull off every single tire, synthesizing them into solid rubber wheels before they can blow out on the harsh road. The cost is steep, 99 tires reduced to 33, but the new wheels can easily survive 60+ degree roads and will never blow out. Distributed evenly across the vehicle, they still provide great shock absorption. The leftover inner tubes are not wasted either. One of their sharpshooter girls transforms branches and rubber into a massive, heavy-duty slingshot. Meanwhile, Zhang Xian pulls 10 3-meter stone spears from the platform, handing them to their 10 strongest fighters. If dried corpses attack again, they now have a dedicated vanguard. With everything ready, he walks the perimeter of the modified vehicle, performing a pre-departure inspection. This bike is their lifeline, meaning it has to be perfect, he remembers hearing about long-haul drivers burning incense to their rigs before setting out. And though he is not sure if the machine spirit likes it, the peace of mind is real. It is best if they face no mechanical breakdowns, as a failure on the wasteland is fatal. He looks at the massive new build. What started as a simple bicycle is now a metal hulk, carrying 48 girls, looking more like a heavy bus. Honestly, what a massive upgrade. He waves his hand, signaling them to mount up as the girls cheer in high spirits. The convoy rolls forward once again, and as they cross the village edge, a fresh prompt appears. Their distance to the next destination, an abandoned gas station, is 215 kilometers. A gas station? His eyes light up at the sight, knowing a station means far more than fuel. It likely holds a convenience store stocked with clothes, clean water, and fresh food. They might even find abandoned vehicles and parts to push the bike further, if he can eliminate pedaling. It will be a real game changer. He glances back at Song Ah on his right and grins before announcing the prompt out loud. The whole vehicle cheers. He tells them to hold on. They are trying the motor. He throws the rough switch tied to the frame. The motor hums to life. The bike accelerates, and the resistance on the pedals drops. There is no gear control, meaning the motor is either on or off at full output. And there is no way to check the battery level since many parts are still missing. 4. Now moving beats anything else. There are no traffic police out here either. So they drive however they want. The remaining battery is just a guess. Most of the scooters he rode back home had inaccurate gauges anyway, just happy meters, so he is used to the only honest signal, which is the power weakening as The battery empties. Anyone who has ridden an electric scooter feels that on. Instinct, the motor lifts their spirits for about 10 minutes, and then the heat smothers them again. They are all panting like dogs, sweating through everything. And the only thought left is finding an oasis and lying down. He checks the panel. The temperature has hit its daily peak, 55 degrees Celsius. Ground temperature is 63. Terrifying numbers, the absolute limit of human endurance, exposed to the sun out. Here they will die fast. When the bike climbs a slope, his arms and feet sometimes catch direct light and the sting is immediate. Without the wooden roof, they would all be down inside 10 minutes. Dong Yan stands up to touch the roof and yelps that it feels about to catch fire. Nang Chu, sitting behind her, smiles and tells her not to worry because she is here. Nang Chu is the most comfortable person on the vehicle right now because she is the team's water source. She makes water and bottles it into spare containers and rations it out to keep their heads cool. In this heat, they need to be constantly drinking just to dump heat through sweat, otherwise heat stroke is a coin flip, and if anyone slumps off the bike from heat stroke, it will be a major problem. He has the team pull out the inner tubes they collected and lash them across the bike seats as makeshift seat belts. Everyone has wooden backrests now, making things comfortable, but that comfort also makes it easier to suddenly drift off if they get tired or overheated. With the bike going 35 to 40 kilometers an hour, falling off is dangerous. Na Bing is at the front, buckling herself in and complaining that her pretty fair legs are ruined, crying that everyone will think she is pitch black now. Lowly, the relentless optimist, fires back that her upper body is so fair and rosy that everyone will just think she has on black stockings. Then Lowly tells the team not to worry since they have hit peak heat, and if this is rock bottom, any direction is up. He smiles and nods. Luckily for them, the temperature will not rise further, at least not soon. If it did, the bike would be useless and their defense would fail, but he thinks Lowly is only half right. Rock bottom can still get lower down into underground caves. 50 kilometers later, the sun has still not moved, and the temperature is still locked at 55. Something is wrong. If they were going to cool off, the sun should at least be drifting west, but it is not. He tells the team flatly that he miscalculated, and the afternoon in this world is exceptionally long. He would not be surprised if this temperature holds for another dozen hours or another dozen days, despite being well prepared with water and plenty of food, plus a corpse that generates constant power. They aren't desperate, but a hard run lies ahead. He adjusts the cycling rules into 3 shifts, rotating with the motor helping. Only a third of them need to pedal at once to keep the bike moving fast. With 49 people in 3 shifts, 48 slots are needed. The leftover slot goes to Na Bing and him, the 2 drivers, because they need more reserves and have to stay alert. They can split that no pedaling slot however they want. He is resting but not idle. He is holding the walkie-talkie, scanning through static to find out how the other teams are doing. He sends a hail, Convoy 341, respond if they hear him. An annoyed voice snaps back, basically asking how he is still breathing. And get this, it is Convoy 300. He shoots back that his pedals must be smoking, asking if he still has time to tune his radio. The man replies he is riding a tricycle alone. Doing fine, then asks how many of them are left. A new male voice cuts in and asks if it is convenient to butt in. He warns him not to answer Say a Woom because the beast is probably setting up an ambush. There was another listener on the channel the entire time eavesdropping, and he saw fit to warn him. CEO Wound sneers and calls him Wang Gang, asking how he is in every channel like a stinking rat. Then he claims he is wrong this time, not planning to kill the leader because he will never even reach the 4th checkpoint, calling him the freak. From Convoy 341, Wang Gang's voice goes, suddenly interested at the convoy number, the one with a lot of people. He asks for his name, then immediately tells him not to give it. He warns him to stop sharing information of any kind because CEO Wound and a handful of others have already killed their own teammates and chat across channels just to fish for information to rob others. He warns him the so-called trading is just a scam. Keep safe. He is surprised how much has happened on the air while they were offline. CEO Wound is notorious now and many people know him. He thanks Wang Gang and tells him his name anyway because gratitude costs nothing and it is worth being on good terms with someone. He laughs. Enough said, he warns, but CEO Wound immediately cuts in with a cold sneer, claiming he only kills directly, but some are far more Hypocritical, devouring others without spitting out the bones. He says no. Matter what tricks they play, they are all going to die and he will wait on the main road for them to deliver themselves. Then his voice cuts out. Either switching channels or muting. He checks back in with Wang Gang, asking if can trade for some information. He is straightforward, telling him to ask whatever he wants, no trade needed, he will share what he knows. He asks if his temperature is also 55 and whether he has reached the 4th checkpoint. He says yes on the heat, sun straight overhead, and no on the checkpoint, adding that he heard from Convoy 985 that checkpoints are over 200 kilometers apart. He is surprised he can pick up convoys starting with 9, he says with some pride that he synthesized a mobile phone and now he can receive messages from convoys 1 through 1,000. The leader praises him sincerely, synthesizing a phone this fast shows real strength. That sparks an idea. He holds 2 walkie-talkies and has held off on phone synthesis because walkie-talkies are too useful. During exploration, for a team of their size, going straight to a phone might not be worth the trade, but what if the device can be synthesized even further into something stronger, he asks. Wang Gang admits he has no idea, but after the 4th checkpoint, plenty of people will know, and it won't be too late. That makes sense. After the 4th checkpoint, convoys starting with 3 all converge. Robbery will run rampant, making walkie-talkies easy to loot from the dead. Wang Gang's tone grows dead serious as he warns him to watch out for Seo Woon. His analysis suggests the man's talent is strictly built for bloody, high-intensity combat. His personal combat stats are massive, and his bike modifications are designed purely for slaughter. His actual advice is, slow down, do not rush to the 4th checkpoint, and once there, stall as long as possible to avoid him. Let the monsters behind them almost catch up before making a move. He nods, thanking him without acting tough. Honestly, Convoy 341 is packed with survival specialists and has few fighters. And even with his newly acquired bonuses, he might lag behind a combat expert. His original strategy was always to linger at each checkpoint as long as possible to rest, gather resources, and upgrade, so even without this warning he would have left late. His convoy will probably move the slowest, but their overall condition is the strongest. They keep chatting. Wang Gang is also an S-rank talent holder with a massive team. The 4th checkpoint intel was actually his, making Seo Woon's earlier attempt to sell it pretty shameless. The checkpoint. Each convoy hits are randomized. Then Wang Gang chuckles, feeling relaxed, and says that slimy bastard Seo Woon is finally gone. He reveals that he is about to share some exclusive intel. Surprised, he urges him to go ahead. Wang Gang explains his phone has a functioning screen, letting him track the active status of every channel starting with 3 in real time. He knows exactly who is in which frequencies, meaning his earlier warnings were completely genuine, though his main goal was to feed false information to Seo Woon. His advice is still highly safe. But further down, they will all be on the exact same road, and although forks in the road will pop up, Seo Woon remains a dangerous constant threat. Hoarding all the best supplies for himself, they need a way to take him down before he strikes. Wang Gang extends an invitation. If he has the strength or guts, he can join the coalition against Seo Woon and the Lion's convoy he is building. He has already recruited several units. When the time comes, will gather and crush Seo Woon together. This plan genuinely surprises him. He takes a moment to think, telling him he cannot make this massive choice alone and must talk it over with his crew. Wang Gang smiles and says that is completely fair. He just wanted him to be aware, but warns that leaking this makes them instant enemies. If once he decides to join, he just needs to spin the radio dial completely clockwise, say a few words, and wait 10 minutes for Wang Gang to make contact. Curious, he asks why Wang Gang chose him. The man laughs, calling it obvious. He is strong and his crew is incredibly reliable. Besides, he heard Seo Woon complain about him through gritted teeth long ago. Anyone who can trigger Seo Woon has real talent. But before he can even respond, Wang Gang chuckles, admitting he was only joking. His next laugh is hollow and bitter. He reveals only 71 convoys are still online. The other 29 have vanished completely, and he assumes they are all dead. Out of those 71, barely 20 check in, and even fewer look okay. Shape, and that number is still falling. Of those 20, more than half are lone wolves. After weeding out the unreliable or foolish ones, there is barely any choice. He has no answer, as there are simply too few decent convoys left to Choose from. Once Wang Gang lays out the state of the 100 convoys, he sits with the walkie-talkie silent in his lap. Honestly, who could have expected things to look this bad? More than half of those in the 300s are probably already dead, and they are only 8 or 9 hours into this brutal survival challenge. It is only going to get harder from here. He has to hurry up and stack resources to get stronger. Wang Gang signs off, saying he needs to get back on the road, wishing him luck for what lies ahead. He returns the sentiment and cuts the channel before asking the team what they think. The girls nearby had been hanging on every word. Lowly, sitting in the third row, speaks up first, suggesting cooperation since sale Woom is far too arrogant. Dongyan nods, agreeing that cooperating is fine if Wang Gang proves reliable, but Nubing argues these are the calls Song Ah should be making. All eyes turn to Song Ah, sitting on the left of the second row, flustered. For a second, she admits her luck is good, but says inspiration does not arrive on command, leaving her empty-handed for now. That is when Ning Chu speaks up, warning that they cannot blindly trust Wang Gang, since he is their only source of information. And there is no telling if he will hunt them down at the meeting point. She highlights a critical detail. When the lead asked Wang Gang if he had reached the fourth checkpoint, he answered with "I." A person with a team would almost always say "we." So Wang Gang might be operating completely alone, making this whole alliance it's a trap, no different from Seo Woon. Suddenly, the room falls completely silent. Everyone looks straight at him. Without even realizing it, he has become the backbone of this team, and when the hard calls arise, they need him to make them. He takes a second, then shares his plan to stall, neither accepting nor refusing. So once they reach the fourth checkpoint, they can decide based on whatever is waiting for them. He reminds them they already have an ideal plan to systematically comb through every checkpoint, squeezing out every last resource, and they cannot let Wang Gang or anyone else disrupt that rhythm. The Seo Woon threat is real, so they are not rushing to decline. They will grow stronger first and decide later. Everyone nods, finding the plan solid. Nubing agrees they need to evaluate their rivals seriously, but adds that they cannot let it overwhelm them. Just like he said, their primary focus now is gaining power. If they can upgrade the bike into an armored vehicle along the way, then whether it is Wang Gang or Seo Woon throwing cheap tricks, she can just floor the gas and run them over. The others voice their agreement, but beneath the tough talk, he can sense their underlying anxiety. Even if they keep quiet, they are terrified because none of them have ever fought before, and now they face ruthless men who murder their own allies. Song Ah turns to him, blinks, and tells everyone to wait. She has another sudden inspiration. Tilting her head, she says she has a great feeling they will win, provided everyone works together. Each member of the group must be armed, and if luck favors them at the next destination, they might secure a major strength boost. Team morale instantly shoots up as anticipation builds. Bing jumps straight into wish-granting mode, wishing out loud for a massive bus or a bulldozer. He looks at Song Ah with a look of mild confusion, knowing her erratic luck is not precise enough to deliver a prophecy. Then she shoots him a small, mischievous glance and he gets it. She's playing mystic to lift morale. He makes a note to talk to her later. Use too much, it stops working and damages the team's trust in her actual talent. But look, as the convoy rolls on, they start grabbing sleep. They have been pushing almost 10 hours without a break. The new seats have wide backrests and seat belts, so once rotation lets them off shift, they drop. Insomnia does not exist out here. Even Bing at the front is losing the fight to keep her eyelids open. He tells her to go rest. He will drive the rest of the way. She shakes her head fast, saying no, she is also a driver. This is not fair. He tells her quietly that his energy was full after using the crystal ball. He already told the 5 core members about it privately because the physical changes were impossible to hide. Hearing this, Bing stops insisting. She buckles her belt and asks in a tired voice if she can take advantage of him little more and borrow his thigh. The latest upgrade made the seats roomier, with no obstruction between them, like double bus seats, so she can lean over fully. He tells her if she does not mind the heat, go ahead. Before he finishes, she has already turned sideways, settled her head on his thigh, and closed her eyes. Her breathing levels out fast, hands tucked under her cheek. She did not go to the bed in the back because she is afraid of emergencies, sand piles in the road or a dried corpse appearing roadside, the cases where he would need her on the steering. The most likely scenario, honestly, is him going down From heat stroke, 7 or 8 people in the convoy have already been hit even. With steady water intake, if you went down at the wheel, the bike would roll, so 2 drivers up front is non-negotiable. Look at her now, sleeping peacefully with her. Mouth slightly open, hair stuck to her sweat-damp forehead, warm breath coming through the thin fabric of his pants. She cut both legs off those tight yoga pants. A while back, neatly trimmed them at the thighs with a dagger, because in this heat, tight fabric on skin is unbearable. With the pants already tight, her prone position pulling them higher, half her bottom is almost out, tracing a full curve. She really does live up to her yoga teacher title, sexy plumpness with a quiet, flexible power inside it. He keeps his grip on the wheel and holds them at 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. His strength bonus quietly covers for his lack of driving talent. The ride is smooth, almost no jolts, on par with what Nubbing usually gives them. The scenery starts out grand, golden red. Dunes shimmering under the sun, the distant horizon distorted by heat, but after long enough it just gets boring. Yellow sand as far as the eye can see. Occasional dust columns kicked up by the hot wind. Before long he is bored and a little uncomfortable. The spot where Nubbing's head is pressed against his thigh is putting her body heat right through his pants, and with her sweating, the patch of fabric is soaked. He quietly hikes up his shorts to let some wind through. The hot wind brings a slight chill across his skin, but she shifts. Unconsciously, her cheek rubs against his leg, and the damp heat lands on him. Again, whether that wetness is sweat or saliva, she has drooled in her sleep. He cannot tell. Either way, it is sticky and sharp in this environment, just as his mind is wandering. A point of light flashes in the desert off to his front. To the left, he sits up and looks, but there is nothing there except dunes. Could it be an illusion? He turns his head, asking if anyone else saw a reflection to the front left, just a single glint, but one of the girls pedaling answers. Right away, in a crisp voice, she confirms she saw it too, right over there. One brief flash, then nothing. With zero hesitation, he orders the vehicle stopped. There is no reason for a bright reflection in the open desert. It is definitely not sand. There is something out there. If it is close, he wants a look. As the vehicle stops, everyone wakes up one by one. Nubbing wipes her mouth dizzily, her face creased from sleep. Scrambling up to ask what is wrong, he tells her there might be something out there. Already off the bike, he walks to the edge of the road to estimate the distance. Eyeballing distances in the desert is highly unreliable because the open sands lie, so before going anywhere, his first step is the math. At this brutal temperature, he figures he can walk at most half a kilometer before turning back, meaning that flashing sand dune cannot be more than 500 meters away. He finds a nearby dune similar to the distant one, eyeballing its height at about 5 meters to compare them. The visual size of the dune is inversely proportional to the distance. That far dune is about 1/3 the height, which puts it somewhere between 200 and 300 meters, and even with distortion, no more than 400, workable. He tells the team he will take a few people. Song-a volunteers immediately, and Dong-yeon grabs her homemade sun hat to follow. He nods, taking a makeshift backpack of old clothes off the bike to pack a few water bottles, grabbing a stone spear and hanging a crowbar at his waist. Before stepping off, he points out the dune, handing Nubbing one walkie-talkie to watch from the road while he keeps the other. With Nubbing standing on the roof, he can stay in her sight even when dunes block his own view. 3 is enough. More of the girls want to join, but he refuses. They are not going to fight, just to search. His raw strength, luck, and healing are plenty. More is just a burden. As they walk, he asks Song-ah if she feels anything, but she says no. Though she still wants to see. Dong-yeon excitedly calls it a sure thing. Convinced there is treasure out there, he warns her not to get too excited. They still have to stay cautious. What if it is a monster? A flash like that, if it was real, should have stayed visible, not just vanished in a single blink. It is strange they could not see it again from the road, 100 meters in. And all 3 of them are completely drenched. It feels like walking inside an oven, heat rising from the ground like actual flames, distorting the shimmering air. Dong-yeon cannot take the heat and pours water over her head, followed by Song-ah. He does the same just to keep moving. Trekking this desert on foot is brutal, but keeping Song-ah and Dong-yeon spaced out, marching in a line 2 meters apart to guard against quicksand. Nubbing's voice crackles through the walkie-talkie, telling them they are close. He acknowledges this and starts studying the ground. The dune ahead must be the one, but it looks like ordinary sand. Then he notices something odd. The the sand under his feet is a slightly different color from the surrounding area. It is coarser too, with highly visible quartz grains inside. He wonders if that initial bright flash was actually a large piece of quartz. If pure enough, it would act like natural glass, perfectly explaining the sharp reflection. He crouches down to inspect the sand grains. A system message flashes. He has found an anomaly. This sand composition is highly unusual, clearly indicating a unique rock layer sits right beneath. Below is an abandoned mine shaft. Its entrance lies 10 meters to his left, currently half buried under shifting desert dunes. Inside lies a handful of mummified human remains and some active cave scorpions. Sandworms are slithering under the nearby dunes. The overall threat level is low as long as they avoid provoking the beasts. The mine holds rich iron, copper, and a small deposit of rare minerals. His eyes light up. They desperately need ore. With iron ore, their entire motorcycle can be reinforced, and they can craft better iron weapons. He waves Song Ah and Dong Yan over and quickly walks to the spot. He pokes the sand with his spear. The grains slide away, exposing a hidden tunnel entrance braced by a decaying wooden frame. Suddenly, a wild scorpion about the size of a human fist scuttles from the dark opening back into the shaft. He notices its outer shell is coated in a glittering, crystal-like armor. That was what caught his eye earlier. Confirming there is no immediate threat, he leans in and beams his flashlight inside. As he slowly crawls in, a skeletal face plunges down and nearly smacks right into his nose. He shrieks a loud curse, leaping back, and instinctively punches the skull away. Song Ah and Dong Yan, guarding the entrance, hear his sudden scream. They quickly grab his ankles and yank him out. He collects himself, telling them it was only a false alarm and that a corpse lies near the entrance. Looking back, he feels quite annoyed at his own reaction. Getting spooked by dead skeleton is embarrassing. Taking a deep breath, he crawls inside again. Sure enough, skeleton sits propped against the dirt wall. He must have brushed against it during his first entry, tipping the bones forward right into his face. He mutters that he cannot afford to be so careless. That almost gave him a heart attack. He sweeps his flashlight around the space. Although mostly buried, the cave interior is quite spacious, measuring about 2 meters high and 2 meters wide. The skull he punched rolled slightly deeper inside. He crawls over and picks it up. It feels heavy and he notices black spots splattered on the bone. Was this poor soul poisoned? He drops it. The skeletal teeth are pitch black, and a short arrow is stuck between the ribs. The arrow is entirely metal, expertly crafted, gleaming coldly under the flashlight beam. Even though the flesh is long gone, the arrow shows no rust. He pulls it free, feeling its weight. The system identifies a fine steel short arrow, which was originally tipped with a deadly poison. The cause of death is clear. This poor guy fled from deep below, got poisoned steps from safety, and collapsed. Then again, the outside would have killed him anyway. The desert is no softer than the cave. Dong Yan squats by the bones, curious, and wonders out loud if this person was a local human native of this subterranean world. Quite likely, he tells her, wishing they had a doctor on hand to examine the remains. Nah. Dean's voice suddenly crackles over the radio, loud and clear, saying she is dispatching help. A woman on her team used to be a doctor and can analyze the skeleton while also bringing over the heavy excavation gear. It is incredible how this radio maintains such a strong signal deep underground. He tells her that sounds perfect and instructs them to follow their tracks and hurry. Understood, she replies. She will also send along a bottle of cold cola, warning him not to overwork himself. She needs to know how long they will stay to properly allocate the supplies. If they remain here, she can build simple wooden shelters off the bikes. Bai quickly scans the ore vein. They have 2 hours of mining at most. After that, they leave regardless. Dong Yuan nods and prepares the supply run. Meanwhile, Song Ah cheers, pulling a rusty iron pickaxe out of the sand. It was buried near a corpse, right next to a worn-out cloth bag. She opens the bag, and a blue gem the size of a coin rolls out. The multifaceted stone glows a soft blue, looking like condensed deep-sea water. Holding it, a faint coolness radiates from the gem, cutting the hot air. A system hint identifies it as sapphire, a highly precious magical material. It adds up to 3 points of water magic to any compatible item. It can also amplify the abilities of anyone gifted with water talent. Bai is thrilled. This is exactly the rare mineral the system warned about. He thought he would have to dig it up himself, but someone did it first. A long-dead native left it waiting. Song Ah smiles, hoping it helps Nang Chu. With this gem, the water creator can produce much more for their journey. Even a tiny bit more water saves lives out here in the wasteland. Bai tells her to keep searching while he goes to check the vein. Raising his flashlight, the beam scrapes across faint metallic glints on the wall. The deposit looks like pyrite and copper ore. He steps up to confirm. It is indeed a mix. Before digging, though, he decides to explore further. The dark tunnel slopes deep, branching off into several dark, narrow forks. Fist-sized scorpions scurry across the light, and a warning system hint surfaces. It reveals that this path leads to a massive underground mine with tools. However, the area contains deadly enemies he cannot handle right now. Continuing forward would be fatal, so Bai turns back with zero regrets. He returns to the vein, lifts his pickaxe, and aims at the wall. The steel strikes the rock, and sharp stone chips immediately begin to fly. He tests the ceiling for stability first, then grips the heavy handle tightly. Taking a deep breath, his arm and shoulder muscles bulge like solid iron. He swings with incredible force, boring into the stone like a drill. Massive chunks of ore peel away, and system notices ping for iron. More copper follows, and his crafting menu quickly updates with new recipes. Refining a crude metal ingot requires exactly 3 units of raw ore. This explains the refined metal ingots they found back at the camp. The previous survivors must have smelted them right here using a platform. At the tunnel entrance, Song Ah and Dong Yuan watch him in silence. It is their first time seeing the young man unleash his full strength. Dong Yuan is amazed, joking that he could easily lift her with one finger. She stares at his toned physique, looking tempted to reach out and touch. However, the flying stone chips force them to back off and watch safely. Seeing the heavy ore stack up, Bai feels a surge of pure joy. His immense strength is actually perfect for mining, not just fighting enemies. This raw metal is their future armor, weapon blades, and key to survival. He feels no fatigue, treating this grueling work like a simple morning warm-up. The dust is so thick that Bai has to stop and let it settle. The pit is cooler. Then the surface and a light breeze rises from the depths now and then, he suspects most. Creatures in this world live underground because the climate down here is much more livable than above, with Song Adan Yang and Bai already clearing. The path Nang Chu's support team moves fast. 15 minutes later, she is at the mine with over 30 people, all carrying iron pickaxes and backpacks full of water ready to work without a single break. The closer they get, though, the more confused they look. The sound echoing from the cave is way too loud and rhythmic. It does not sound like a person. When they round the last dune and see the scene, the entire group freezes. The entrance is exposed right in the middle of the dune, just widened, and a large pile of ore is stacked outside, silver and gold. Glinting under the sun, from inside the mine come heavy, rhythmic impacts that sound like a heavy machine. Each thud shakes the walls and trickles dust off the entrance. The rhythm is too steady to be human, like a tireless excavator. Pounding underground, a girl whispers, asking if that is really brother by mining. Another suggests he probably found some machine, saying it sounds like drills that bore holes in the ground. Nang Chu walks fast to the entrance and looks inside, deep. Down the shaft, her flashlight beam reveals a dust-covered back with muscle. His arms turn the pickaxe into a complete afterimage. Each strike peels off a section of rock wall, and the falling ore, the heavy thuds, and his deep, heavy breathing layer over each other in a primal rhythm. When he bends down to gather power, his abdominal muscles contract and then snap with a sudden twist, his back and hip lines tightening and exploding like a drawn bow. Honestly, Nang Chu feels her scalp tingle and her heart skip a few beats. The floor is also already scattered with loose ore, and clearly the heap outside is only a fraction of what he pulled in those 10+ minutes. Girls crowd in, asking if Brother Bai is turning human. Pile driver, another, says it is no wonder he wanted the synthesis platform dragged here, because hauling raw ore alone would definitely kill them. Third notes his waist looks incredibly powerful. Yep, the girls are totally distracted now. Loudly to stop daydreaming, Group 1 moves over to the synthesis platform. With Zhang Xian running synthesis, Group 2 moves the iron ingots, the support team uses a thick wooden board as a base, and drags the platform over like a sled. 3 pieces of ore equal 1 metal ingot, so calculating the work, Bai decided. Dragging the platform here was much less work than hauling sharp, irregular raw ore back. Nobody has gloves, barely anyone has protective clothes, and freshly dug ore cuts on contact. dragging the platform is simpler and far more stable. With this many hands, the ore at the entrance is cleared fast, and the team funnels into the mine one after another to escape the heat. Bai keeps mining. Rotation moves ore to the platform for synthesis, and once those ingots stack up, they get sledded back to the road. Working inside the mine is better than the ruins. He does not rest. He knocks back a cola and goes right back to it. Dig, dig. Dig with everything. A few scorpions get disturbed and crawl up from the depths. But he follows the hints and ignores them, so they do not dare approach. His pace is fast enough that the girls are barely keeping up, moving the heavy ore. The boulder starts staring openly, and whenever he takes a break, they race to bring him water and soda. When he tilts his head back to drink, water drops slide down his jaw, running along his chest and abs. The gasps from the small crowd are definitely not subtle. But resources are not infinite. He completely underestimated his own digging speed. After nearly an hour, the ore gets sparse and intermittent. With his geology background, he knows exactly what that means. This branch vein has ended. Keep digging and there will just be worthless rock, and it is not worth the effort. There is a larger main vein deep underground, but what he has been digging is just a small branch reaching to the surface, and that deeper metal is out of reach for his current strength. He stops the pickaxe, still wanting more. The haul is massive: 20 crude iron ingots, 4 crude copper ingots, 1 crude silver ingot, 1 fine steel arrow, and 1 precious sapphire. Iron ore makes up the bulk, but with luck, copper and iron often run alongside a little silver. Altogether, this is easily on par with loot from a single station, and one of the most resource-rich ones at that. With 3 stations done, their running total already matches what other convoys would have after 4 or more. Compared to anyone else, this is a massive lead, and he is in a great mood. He waves for everyone to pack up. If not for his strength and the team's numbers, none of this trip would have been possible. Most convoys would be completely helpless in front of a mine like this, just staring at resources. They cannot move. Just dragging the synthesis platform alone takes a whole group. Even a strong individual would waste at least half an hour on each round trip. Hidden resource points requiring serious cooperation can only be cleared by a team like theirs. As they pack, Song-ah walks up with a smile, saying she has found another good treasure. He smiles back. Bringing Song-ah really does mean a trail of surprises all the way. She asks him to guess what it is, biting her lip. With pride, he looks around and sees nothing. Her hands are empty, but the setup makes his heart stir. He cannot help glancing excitedly at the snowy white of her chest. Her face turns bright red, and she punches his shoulder lightly, annoyed, telling him that he guessed completely wrong. She stops teasing, clicking her tongue against the roof of her mouth in a clicking sound, and a sudden rustling answers from the dark depths of the mine, followed by a series of slight clicking returns. A fist-sized scorpion slowly crawls out of the shadows. He sees it clearly for the very first time. Its milky white carapace is wrapped in a translucent crystal-like layer that shines under the flashlight, and at the end of its tail is a sharp, beautiful crystal stinger. It looks just like a piece of art carrying a heart-pounding kind of dangerous beauty. Song-ah reaches out without fear, and the crystal scorpion crawls onto her palm, its stinger curling. She hides her hands submissively behind her back, proudly asking how it looks. He actually expected another basic crystal ball, but a living native creature is different. This is the very first organic life form they have discovered in this brutal wasteland so far. He stares at her with pure, envious disbelief, because her luck is just absolutely heaven-defying. Song-ah shakes her head, pointing out that all the credit actually goes to Dongyun. Dongyun spotted the crystal scorpion first, but multiple larger beasts were brutally attacking it. The poor creature was severely wounded, but they got there just in time to save and heal it. Song-ah gently turns the scorpion over, revealing the strange crystal shell on its belly. Its shell is cracked in several places, with one section completely shattered. Since they saved it, the creature seems eager to follow them. She looks up hopefully. She asks if she can keep it as a pet. He nods, keeping it is fine. But this type of scorpion is highly venomous and massive, making it a real threat. He worries about hidden dangers. Still, she admits that even a trained dog might bite. The giant scorpion is obviously worse, but she has spent enough time with it to know. The creature actually understands commands shockingly fast. Its intelligence is almost like a puppy. She believes proper training can turn it into a real asset, looking at him seriously. She really wants to try so she can back him up in future fights. Even though the venom is not fatal, it causes complete paralysis. Extreme weakness sets in and the sting swells up fast. They can coat weapons. This precious resource could give them a massive edge when clashing with other convoys. It is definitely valuable, he agrees, his face turning serious. But how does she know? Her face stiffens. In her absolute rush to save it, she actually got stung. She looks up, her eyes deeply apologetic, but completely steady as she admits it. She apologizes. Their rules forbid provoking underground beasts. She knew the rule and ignored it. He is furious, but mostly terrified for her safety. He warns her never to repeat this, telling her not to keep chasing danger. Relying solely on her luck talent will cause a major crash sooner or later. What if she just gets that feeling? Her voice is soft, but her gaze remains firm. Didn't he tell her himself to follow her instincts and trust in luck? She saw the pitiful scorpion and acted without thinking. Her expression shows she knows. She was wrong, she admits it and apologizes, but she would honestly do it again. Our guy gets an instant headache. What if the venom had been highly lethal? What if Dong Yan couldn't save her in time? She calmly says nothing could be done. Looking at him directly, she asks if he isn't also constantly taking huge risks. Is he so certain he will never die just because he acts on magical system hints? She appreciates his concern, but insists that everyone on this team must share the danger. Nobody is irreplaceable. If she dies, that is bad luck, but victory brings them a trump card. Her cheeks flush as she gets more excited. She hates watching him always carry the burden as their only main combatant. He has done more than enough, but their enemies are numerous and incredibly powerful. She remembers what Wang Gang said, lone wolves with massive resources are extremely dangerous. Seeing him mining alone made her realize she needs to help carry the pressure. She wants to help relieve his pressure, or at the very least, not hold him back anymore. But as soon as those words escape, she worries she might be totally misunderstood. She quickly clarifies, explaining that everyone should carry their own weight, not just her. Everyone wants to help, so he shouldn't always try to carry everything completely on his own. He looks at her and can't help smiling. Her words make perfect sense to him. Expecting zero risk is unrealistic, and with a lucky girl like her willing to help, why refuse? He reaches out his hand to Song Ah, inviting her to stand side by side with him. Suddenly, the walkie-talkie in his hand crackles with a loud voice. Bing asks what they are whispering about, telling them to hurry back. Bing can barely suppress his laughter, while Song Ah's entire world suddenly goes completely dark. Were her private words just broadcast to the whole team, she desperately wants to bury herself. Right on the spot, he is completely stunned. Copy that, the walkie-talkie. Cannot be turned off. Open comms is a basic safety rule. They walk out of the mine to start their return. On the way, Song Ah tries putting the crystal scorpion down and it follows them at a fast, even pace, agile and stable. The beast really is a native creature. Ground temperatures of over 60 degrees have zero effect on it. Even better, it only listens to Song Ah when others try to call or direct the creature. It ignores them completely. Her luck is simply cheat level. He wonders if she, through some mysterious probability, managed to gain the chance of being recognized by the scorpion right when it almost died. Either way, if he trains it properly, it will matter. Its food is also special sand, specifically the quartz crystals inside. The higher the purity and transparency, the better, which is likely tied to how its crystal shell forms. Back at the vehicle, looking at the piles of metal ingots, he rubs his hands. It is time. Time for his favorite part, upgrading and strengthening. Honestly, this is the best part. Where should he prioritize his upgrades? Should he make the frame more powerful, or should he expand the rear space first? He cannot wait as he reaches out to touch the bicycle. The vehicle had changed shape a dozen times under his hands already, but the system hint kept whispering there was still vast room to grow. The combined upgrade path branches out before him like a massive tree. Every limb represents a different way to push the bicycle further, and the order does not matter because every single branch is reachable. He can choose frame upgrades for strength, shell upgrades for protection at the cost of speed, or better suspension for comfort, copper for power, and sapphire for some unknown miracle. He cracks open a cold bottle of cola, sits in the driver's seat, and lets the sugar work on his brain. Two specific options pull at him harder than the rest. One is using the sapphire on the vehicle itself, which the hint warns is a major gamble on something equivalent to a 50-person frame, a permanent comfort boost that might end up too faint to ever notice. The other option is purely offensive, mounting heavy crossbows on the roof and sides, reinforcing the hubs and fitting. Tire shredding spikes, both are extremely rare high-tier options that had not surfaced before. They are absolutely the kind of upgrades any driver would fall in love with. Comfort especially, because comfort in a desert boiling at 55 degrees is the only thing standing between a team that fights and a team that collapses. But the Sapphire could also go to Nangchu instead. That is the exact route his mind has been circling from the very start. Injecting the gem straight into the girl means she becomes more versatile and mobile in a way the vehicle could never match. He shelves the gem for now and burns through the rest of the upgrade list. First, the whole vehicle flares with a soft white light that streams toward the metal ingots stacked nearby. The frame and hubs quickly thicken on consumption of 8 crude iron ingots, bumping the overall strength up sharply. The suspension consumes 5 more ingots and upgrades to springs, killing the worst of the jolts. A narrow aisle opens down the middle of the vehicle. The seat pairs in each row merge into wider benches, and the copper coils inside the electric motor. Swap for silver wire to suck less power while boosting output. He adds a large. The second row crossbow got an iron body with inner tube rubber bands for power. He converted stone spears into bolts, giving the generator a quick copper boost so it would charge faster. The only thing he could not touch was the dried corpse on the treadle, which remained a lifeless corpse. By the end of the round, he had emptied 20 crude iron ingots and 1 silver ingot, leaving exactly 2 copper. To his name, metal hoarded was metal wasted, and his rule was to spend everything. Every single time, he pulled the sapphire out of his pocket, holding it in his palm. Trace of coolness spread up his hand, a complete luxury in this sweltering hell. The deep chill proved that precious materials really were magical. Now came the hard decision. He looked across at Nangchu, sitting not far from the vehicle, and the hint obliged right on cue, showing that giving her the sapphire directly would grant her a water control ability tied to her current grade B talent. With a 5-meter range, and her affection for him would definitely climb. An absolute win-win, but he held off and turned his gaze on Song Ah. The hint shifted instantly. Under her luck blessing, Nangchu actually had a chance of pulling an extra water element affinity constitution. It was the kind of thing that ignored talent restrictions entirely, boosting her water control range to 10 meters, sharpening her perception of water everywhere, and letting her summon low-tier water elemental whose duration scaled with her spiritual power. His eyes lit up. This was the path. Before he could call Nangchu over, a second hint floated up beside her. Under Song Ah's luck, if he let the crystal scorpion poison Nangchu first before handing over the sapphire, she would also pick up toxin resistance on the back end. Bai stared. Wait, could it really be done like this? Without that hint, nobody in this entire world would have ever stumbled on such a crazy combination. The benefits far eclipsed strengthening the bicycle, so he stopped hesitating, smiled at Nangchu, and waved her over. She jogged right over, calling him Brother Bai, with pure excitement written all over her face. Barely held in check, having already heard about the sapphire from the others, he told her he wanted to give it to her, but they needed to complete 2 small rituals first. Then he told Song Ah he needed her help for both. He explained the basic steps. The short version was that Song Ah and her pet both had to plan a kiss on Nangchu. The 2 girls froze in stunned silence, blushing as they glanced at each other. He called Dong Yan over to stand guard nearby just in case, then urged them to get on with it. Song Ah took a soft breath and pressed a gentle kiss to Nangchu's cheek, while the crystal scorpion raised its stinger at the same moment, giving her arm a light prick. Nangchu's body shuddered and she fell straight back. He caught her waist with one hand and pressed the sapphire to her chest with the other. The gem melted in a soft blue halo, seeping right down into her skin. Ethereal waves and faint singing rose behind his ears, sounding like a cool seaside tide breaking against his palm in subtle ripples, and a chill spread from where the sapphire had been. Even as a bystander, he could feel the incredible power sleeping inside the gem. When the blue light faded, he looked down. Nangchu was staring up at him with wide, bright eyes, while his hand was still pressed firmly against her chest. He did not pull back right away. Keeping a perfectly calm expression, he held the contact. He waits another moment, confirming what he already suspected. Her body temperature had dropped where his hand rested. The sweltering, sticky skin was suddenly radiating coolness. He pulls his hand back, her fair skin is dry, leaving only a red mark. When he asks her how she feels, she stands up flushed, completely overwhelmed by the sudden rush of power. She says the experience was magical, though she was completely frozen at first. But the second he pressed the gem into her chest, her mind snapped back instantly. Now she feels an incredible sense of comfort that she has never experienced in her life. The oppressive heat is gone. Just like that, she can finally breathe easy. He nods, assuring her that this strange, refreshing feeling is definitely real. In fact, her core temperature has likely dropped to around 20 degrees. The surrounding furnace makes the chill feel even sharper. Normally, 20 degrees would leave an ordinary human stiff and practically dead. She is not ordinary anymore. She beams at him with absolute gratitude. According to her, this new power feels like so much more than a talent. Her body has changed completely, leaving her feeling incredibly refreshed. She can sense nearby water as clearly as if she were looking at it. There is also a mysterious, instinctive knowledge flooding her mind, a door to a new world. Gently raising her hand, she makes the sand under her feet tremble. Suddenly, a fresh spring of water surges right up out of the barren ground. It condenses in midair, slowly taking the form of a translucent, drifting jellyfish. The delicate bell pulses gracefully, tentacles trailing behind it like fine silk. A ripple of soft blue light spreads outward from the creature with every beat. The wave washes over him, leaving a fine, cool mist clinging to his skin. With the heat backing down fast, the air around them turns incredibly fresh. He looks at the moisture on his arms and mutters a quiet curse of disbelief. Honestly, she just became a human air conditioner with a built-in humidifier. Just moments ago, the exhausted crew was completely wilting in the heat. Now they snap their heads up as the wave of cool air washes over them. The entire convoy immediately moves closer to Nang Chu and her floating summon. People reach out to catch the mist, joking about stripping down on the spot. But they calm down, it is only mist, not enough to bathe in. He steps forward and carefully measures the radius, which spans roughly 5 meters in every single direction. This cool, watery field is perfectly centered around the drifting jellyfish. Since their vehicle is 2 meters wide, they can make this work. Letting the summon float down the main aisle allows everyone to take turns cooling off. The only issue is that their transport has an open frame, making full-time cooling impossible. To cut down on wind resistance, he had left the shell completely off. But if the nearby gas station has a working engine, they can rebuild it. With a solid shell, full air conditioning will finally be on the table. The crew is already looking forward to the next checkpoint with hope. One girl whispers about dreaming of a hot bath, and someone laughs in agreement. Morale is soaring, and genuine smiles are finally returning to their faces. Nang Chu takes the spotlight, asking the others if they can guess her secret. Once she has their full attention, she breaks down the process in detail. And of course, she makes sure to give him all the credit. She explained her new constitution was a water element affinity, allowing her to summon water elemental from another plane, spreading a 5-meter radius of cooling vapor. For 10 hours a day without any physical burden, she paused, her voice sounding clear and steady. Suddenly their lives were looking a whole lot easier. Then she emphasized again that the cultivation method belonged to him, developed through his own unique talent. To observe and map out these upgrade paths, proving that this incredible power was not limited to her alone. Anyone who worked hard and gathered the right materials would have the chance to be upgraded by him, too, every girl in the convoy lit up. Beside the respect and gratitude they already felt, a burning desire entered their eyes, one they did not even try to hide. Who would not want what Nang Chu had just received? One bold girl even shouted she wanted to be upgraded by Brother B right now. Another asked what counted as doing a good job. That second voice belonged to Yu Chun Rai, a tall, bright-eyed girl with 20 points of spiritual power, whose only talent was C-grade arson, an absolute joke in a 55-degree desert. Naturally, she had been quietly miserable about it. Her stunning looks and body matched anyone on the team, and her attributes outclassed half of them, yet these gifts had never reached her. She did not blame him. Resources were limited, and he could not pull gems out of thin air. She simply had not found her angle yet. Watching Nang Chu's sudden transformation, she wondered if she should speak up. Brother B raised his hand. Total silence. He told them he had already considered their motivation. Going forward, they would compete for opportunities, and anyone finding hidden sites or saving the convoy from trouble would Go straight to the front of his cultivation line based on his assessment. The instant those words landed, the convoy was buzzing. He added that everyone should focus on cooperating with Song A during exploration, since her incredible luck had brought up the sapphire in the first place. More resources meant more cultivation slots. The girls cheered, half of them already promising to bring back anything that was not nailed down. One even yelled she would find resources and beg him for upgrades. Immediately, Nangchu cut through the loud noise, calling them to order so he could finish. With the convoy fully motivated, he used this moment to announce major management changes, beyond the 5 core members anchored around Song A. He promoted 3 other standouts to squad leaders, breaking the convoy into smaller groups so daily tasks no longer landed on his desk every single time. His workload dropped instantly, and he waved them onto the vehicles as they started rolling again. Honestly, the difference was huge. The pedals turned easier. Breathing came smoother, and from the driver's seat, he felt the massive power output climb a full notch. They held steady at 40 kilometers an hour, occasionally hitting 50 even with the added weight of those upgrades. The jellyfish's air conditioning kept heat stroke at bay, though the team still sweated from the intense effort. No longer collapsing, stamina recovered faster between their rotations. At this rate, the abandoned gas station was just an hour out. Static crackled on the walkie-talkie as Wang Gang checked in, asking if he had reached the 4th checkpoint yet. He replied not yet, still on the road. Probably 2 more hours. The other man sounded amused at his slow pace, asking if he was hanging back on purpose. Then his voice dropped, warning him that intelligence showed Sailworm slowing down after leaving the 4th checkpoint, deliberately picking off convoys arriving from behind, with 3 already wiped out, possibly even doubling back to ambush. He was stunned. It was an insidious, deadly move. It meant the second he crossed onto the merged road, he might walk straight into Sailworm's trap. But Wang Gang had some good news, having already secured 2 other convoys to cooperate. 3 teams gave him 80% confidence to defeat Sailworm, though he could not guarantee a kill. He was still figuring out his reply when a blurry black dot rose on the shimmering road ahead. It looked like a moving, dried corpse. Then more dots entered his vision, one after another. The lookout with visual talent shouted that there were 7 or 8, likely more, behind the slope. The sleepers in the back jolted awake as Nub Bing slammed the brakes. Gasps filled the cabin. Facing so many dried corpses was a terrifying first. Wang Gang heard the noise over the radio and asked if he was all right. From the volume of the panic, he could tell the convoy had at least dozens of people, far more than he imagined. Instantly, doubt entered his tone. 7 or 8 dried corpses was a routine number near any station on the road of survival. A team panicking at that count was a team he could not gauge. He caught the doubt, used it for cover, and casually said they ran into minor trouble and would handle it. Before clicking the radio off, he told Nubbing not to panic and keep moving, then ordered the convoy to grab weapons and prepare. Their vehicle drifted forward toward the first dried corpse, charging them at 10 meters. He kicked open the door and dropped out. The monster roared, its withered arms high. He did not dodge, lifting his heavy iron axe and swinging with everything he had. The blow split its arm and half its chest in a single impact. The body flew off its feet, tumbling several times in the air before slamming onto the scorching road in pieces. Its upper half was practically annihilated. There was no technique in that swing. It was pure numerical suppression. Yet that overwhelming strength gave the convoy a massive sense of security. The girls watched in stunned silence before breaking into low cheers. The panic was crushed at the root. The problem was still ahead, though. They had not even reached the abandoned gas station, and the desert was already crawling with monsters. He ordered everyone out into formations, refusing to be the only one fighting. This team desperately needed the practice. Dried corpses were not difficult for an armed person. They had no real edge in speed and were only slightly stronger than humans. The real threats were corpse poison and sheer numbers. Nang Chu commanded loudly, her voice tight but composed, sending the spearmen to the front, with axe and knife users behind them. To finish off what got pinned, the dried corpses came in scattered, brain-dead waves, easy to read. Spears knocked them down, while axes split their skulls and joints. After a few rounds, they had the rhythm. The last 3 did not even get their charge off before the squads jumped them, chopping them into pieces of shredded jerky. The only casualty of the round was a girl grazing her own Armed with an axe, humanity's edge has always been tools and cooperation. With basic weapons and raw strength, not enough, not against this endless horde. Loli swings her heavy axe, complaining she has not had her fill yet. Her speed talent lets her easily solo dried corpses alone, Na Bing warns her not to get cocky because more deadly threats are waiting ahead. Every single dismount is a massive drain on stamina, she insists they need to push on because the delay has already cost them. He nods, wanting to recover their lost progress by accelerating, but they do not make it far. More dried corpses appear, they stop to clear them, then stop again. The threat is minor, some monsters they can just blow past without fighting. But others block the very middle of the road, meaning a sharp swerve. At high speed could easily flip their heavy vehicle into the sand. By the eighth stop, sweat pours off him as this situation grinds his nerves. Stopping and starting this heavy combined bicycle every kilometer is pure torture. It drains their energy faster than any actual combat, so they try. Fighting directly from the saddle, swinging axes and spears at anything close. They even use long wooden poles to push enemies away, but the results are ugly. The vehicle is too long and even cleaved corpses keep their forward momentum, scratching anyone standing next to the edge. Untrained eyes struggle to land hits from the swaying frame. Some monsters even latch onto the sides. Na Bing grips the wheel, calling back to him in a tense voice. Their average speed has collapsed to a dangerous 15 kilometers an hour, just 5 faster than the monster. They are not caught yet, but they are not gaining ground. He knows there is no better option right now. He wipes the sweat from his face. Feeling mentally and physically fried under the scorching sun, these repeated dismounts are draining him completely. A single abandoned vehicle on the road would ruin everything. Na Bing suggests building a front ram using 2 leftover copper ingots to shield it, hoping to knock the dried corpses aside, but she quickly shakes her head, warning him that the impact is too risky. A single corpse caught under a wheel could flip them, and her arms cannot steer a front end that heavy. Even if it survives, riding it would drain the entire convoy's strength. They are completely out of time. Still, his eyes light up. He tells her the idea is brilliant but needs refining. He stops to upgrade and reinforce their spare wooden boards, building a massive triangular pyramid ram on the front, spanning 3 meters wider than the body. It rides low to the ground, easily shoveling corpses aside instead of catching them under the wheels. The last 2 copper ingots coat the surface like armor, creating a smooth metallic shell to reduce drag. Na Bing calls it a perfect design, but warns him that they must still hit the corpses perfectly straight from the front. The incredibly long body of this rig offers absolutely no protection from side impacts. He reminds her she is driving, and her driver talent will help her thread these collisions and keep their speed high, but she smiles bitterly, admitting she lacks the necessary strength, as every single impact will travel straight up into her hands. The steering was a completely mechanical setup without any power assist, meaning she was already exhausting her talent just to hold the handlebars at high speed. She holds out her palms. Her skin is completely peeled off. He smiles. He already considered this. He asks her what if they drove together, patting his thigh. Sit here. It would grip the handlebars together, her hands on his. The vehicle benefits from her safe 50% steering strength talent, while his own raw power prevents any impacts from shaking the bars away. She blinks, then her eyes widen in pure shock as the plan lands. But the posture her face has, versus the total urgency the road demands. Blushing deeply, she turns and drops onto his lap, not heavy at all. Her weight presses down so evenly, not enough to numb his legs even after hours, and his strength keeps his arm movement perfectly free. She is unbelievably fragrant. Second impression, where Song Ah carried a delicate hint of osmanthus, Na Bing has a much richer scent of sweet orchid. Perfume, did she bathe in it? In this dry desert, that is impossible. So incredibly soft. Third impression, not entirely obvious at first, but when the vehicle hits a bump at 40 kilometers an hour, the frame jolts. Her weight comes down hard. Suddenly, that soft touch is crystal clear. But it is also sweltering. At 55 degrees, a warm body pressed against his front, blocking the wind he counted on. The joy fades very quickly as the relentless heat becomes unbearable. Thank goodness for the jellyfish cooling mist. He would have collapsed with heatstroke within 10 minutes. Na Bing is sweating 2. Her back instantly soaked and clinging to him, just as uncomfortable. She forces herself to lock onto the road ahead. Dried cores keep appearing, demanding her absolute focus. Her hands ride his on the handlebars, her arms resting along his forearms to save her strength. When she steers left, he feels it and instantly adds power. The indirect coordination works surprisingly well. Sometimes she has to shout directions aloud just to keep them in perfect sync. Warning him of 2 dried cores ahead, she angles the bars. The ram catches both, flinging them away. The handlebars try to buck under the impact, but his heavy grip keeps them locked, steering not deviating an inch. Amazing, brother, bye, she breathes, and her confidence instantly soars. She urges him to go even faster. That old driver talent of hers seems simple at rest, but behind the wheel it is incredibly specialized. Under her control, the long vehicle maneuvers like a nimble giant snake gliding down the road. She says his strong arms feel like her own, believing with a bit more practice she can maintain 50 steady, with absolutely zero risk of tipping over. The faster they go, clearing obstacles easily, the safer their journey becomes. Bing quickly masters this dual control mode. The vehicle hits 50 and holds it through sharp turns. Talk about an absolutely wild setup, because she has to talk continuously over the bumpy, uneven desert road. Her lips keep skimming close to his, her cheek brushing against him. Their faces touch as she leans back to speak, while he leans forward to see. In the initial urgency of their run, she barely even registers it. But as clearing those dried corpses becomes effortless, other feelings begin creeping in. Bing's cheeks begin to warm. That is how people are. Ignore something and it does not exist, but once you notice, it is impossible to ignore. The sudden sensation behind her, the warmth of his breath crossing her ear, everything suddenly became incredibly vivid. She had never been this close to a man in such an intimate posture. His lips kept brushing her sweaty cheek, and he could confidently confirm that sweat is always salty. No matter how beautiful the girl is, there is no such thing as fragrant sweat. Yet her actual fragrance was very real. Maybe it did have to do with the sweat. After all, why did Bing keep smelling so good? Another dried corpse went flying. The heavy vibration rolled through the vehicle frame, jolting her violently. His body swayed right along with hers. The awkward posture was starting to test him. It was too ambiguous, too uncomfortable to hold. Her arms were short, to steer quickly. Her entire upper body had to shift with the wheel. He braced himself and told her not to drive so fast or move so vigorously. Her expression immediately stiffened. Of course she knew why, but her arms truly were short, without twisting her shoulders and waist on every single turn. She could not make the turn in time. She told him softly that she would slow down. He told her 40 was fine, that they would arrive soon enough if they took it easy. Then the scene ahead darkened his face. The road plunged into a massive stretch of undulating sand dunes, with low, sandy waves rolling without break, yellow sand piled high across the asphalt. That was not even the worst of it. Several dried corpses were currently crawling out of the yellow sand and staggering directly onto the road. Slowing down was no longer an option. Bing called his name in a small, panicked voice. Frozen on his lap, her body stiff and not daring to move, she apologized, her face completely flushed, explaining she had not meant to. She had only entertained bold thoughts after seeing Song's lucky behavior for inspiration. This whole situation was a genuine accident. She did not want him thinking she was scheming. He cut her off, saying this was his idea and had nothing to do with her. He should be the one apologizing. He told her to step down so he could drive, his voice tight with helplessness, owning the situation. Honestly, it was just a natural physical reaction, nothing more. Normal man with no danger around, a beauty squirming on his lap as she drove. A backside of that scale, having no reaction would actually be the alarming outcome. The big problem was timing. While driving, a dried corpse could climb on at any moment, and his body was being incredibly stubborn about following his mind's commands. Bing hesitated, but then she gritted her teeth and refused. She told him she would not get down, that this was her duty as driver, that she already felt bad enough for lying on him. It was no one's fault. She told him to sit tight and relax, promising she would get him to the gas station safely. Drawing a deep breath, her voice suddenly firm. She had clearly made up her mind. If Songa could fake an ankle injury just to get a hug, talk about dedication, so she could do this too. She told him not to worry, that she did not mind, since he had said himself it was completely normal. Then she shouted to accelerate. The convoy stomped on the pedals and the vehicle surged forward the bumpy road, throwing the frame up and down. Crack, he felt the sickening sound of a fatal blow. His back arched, cold sweat immediately breaking on his forehead, his voice tightening through grit teeth as he begged her to sit still. That this really could be fatal. She apologized in a panic, genuinely feeling terrible. She didn't know, she thought it'd please him, but now he was sweating cold and turning pale. She was sure he hated this, total confusion plastering her face. What was happening? She softly asked what she should do. He ground out that she should do nothing but sit still, especially not bounce on the bumps. Their pleasant ride had turned into a complete disaster. He deeply missed Song A's luck blessing for the very first time. If only she were there, Nub Bing wouldn't have hit him hard enough to grimace. She agreed quickly to never do it again, silently putting on her inner beauty mask to hide her embarrassment. She regretted it almost immediately. Embarrassment isn't always written on the face. She was a classic case of covering her head while exposing her butt. That hour-long ride was exceptionally difficult. When he finally spotted the hazy outline of a square building in the distance, he exhaled. They made it. A hint popped up right on cue, telling him the abandoned gas station held fresh water, modern food, a small amount of mechanical and clothing resources, and a few upgrade parts. Then the second line landed and chilled him. 55 dried cores were gathered inside, some retaining a sliver of pre-death intelligence, though their combat ability remained identical to the ordinary kind. Mechanical resources. His heart was already pounding before he'd even cleared the entrance. The wind picked up again, dust filling the sky, visibility crashing inside 20 meters. Not enough for a sandstorm, but enough to push them into action while the window lasted. He decided to clear the dried cores first. Nang Chu warned the number was high enough that rushing in was suicide. Song Ah said they were lucky to have his hint talent, letting them see the composition in advance. The convoy dismounted and they started laying out a plan. Then Dong Yan turned to Nub Bing and asked curiously why she was not getting off yet. Nub Bing answered calmly that her pants were soaked through and she had just stepped down to wash them. Otherwise, she would be chafed raw later. She really had taken them off too. Rinse. The fabric was so saturated that white salt crystals had crusted along the inseam. The dry desert air would have them wearable again in minutes. Others chimed in about their own chafing, inner thighs already raw, underarms sore, salt from evaporated sweat doing its damage on delicate skin. Nang Chu encouraged them all with a smile that as long as they cleared the gas station, they would be able to bathe and would aim to set up a simple shower on the vehicle. The convoy cheered and their plan came together fast. With his hint, the strategy was easy. Make noise at the entrance to lure them out, retreat with the convoy while pulling them along, and chop them down in pieces on the road. Lowly, and he held long spears at the rear of the vehicle. As the main clearers, the stupid dried corpses chased the wheels and lined themselves up to be skewered until they burst. There was a minor incident though. One dried corpse was unnaturally fast, probably gifted, and in a careless moment it closed to the side of the vehicle. He didn't rely on technique. His strength stat was higher. One axe swing and its head was hammered into its own chest cavity. It took 10 minutes to deal with the swarm the gas station coughed up. On the way back, he started counting bodies and went alert. 55 should have. Only 41 stepped onto the road. 14 stayed behind, showing they had the brains to hide. They were hiding, he warned the convoy, and everyone gripped their weapons tightly, their hands clenched around their gear. The gas station was a complete ruin. Its sign collapsed. Sand covered the floor thick. A quick scan of the area disappointed him, revealing no vehicles. The system hint mentioned mechanical resources, pointing inside. He avoided a potential trap at the doorway and smashed through the side wall. The convenience store next door. The noise was loud, but inside he found only piles of food, no dried corpses. The remaining 14 had to be hiding in the rest area further down. Suddenly, the crystal scorpion began tapping rapidly on Song A's shoulder. It leaped down, waving its claws toward the path they had come from. The wind had grown sharp, freezing teeth, leaving their path hidden in the rolling sand. He was first to react, sprinting toward the bicycle, screaming at the top of his lungs for the convoy to follow, and they all immediately ran with him. Lowly, the fastest of them, panicked that the dried corpses targeted the bicycles instead. He ordered her back immediately, explaining that their limbs remained stiff, meaning there was absolutely no way they could start their vehicles, and being too hasty could easily walk them straight into a deadly ambush. They had to go together, the two of Them out front, from the rear, the girl with the hearing talent reported that the dried corpses were furiously pounding on the bicycles, sending up a wave of chaotic noise, he assured her. They were fine, and to get ready, he and Loli rushed out first, axes. Covering each other, with his insane strength, a dozen dried corpses could not do anything to him so long as he ignored a few scratches, but the second they saw him swing his axe, sending the first one flying, before they turned and fled in unison, with one of them tripping over its own feet, falling flat on its face. He called them cunning out loud, both angry and amused, and gave chase. He kicked the fallen creature back down before it could rise, then hurled his axe. His technique was nothing special, but his monstrous strength easily compensated, sending the handle slamming into the back of another dried corpse, punching straight through. Loli was much faster than him but lacked strength, only managing to grapple one of them, and it took his rival to pin it down together. He ordered her not to kill it, since these two had intelligence and he wanted them for power generation. Behind them, Nangchu ran up with a spear, breathless and outraged, telling him the dried corpses had destroyed several of their wooden crates and even bitten the tires. He was equally shocked, having assumed they only had the brains of a cat or dog at best, and he never expected them to ambush their bicycles. Instead of attacking the team directly, whether that truly counted as retaining a small amount of intelligence was another question. Back at the bicycles, his view shifted again. They really were not that smart after all, having bitten the solid rubber tires and wheel hubs. The wooden crates, and one of them had its teeth jammed in a plank. Even cats and dogs knew better than to bite wood. Nangchu offered a guess that maybe they kept just enough pre-death intelligence to know the bicycles were their lifeline, but not enough to actually damage them properly. Maybe they were survivors like them, once dead survivors who desperately did not want anyone behind them to escape, like in every horror movie ever filmed. He nodded. The theory explained why they had cleverly targeted the right thing while attacking it the wrong way, not a total loss. They ended up with two smart ones. He knocked their teeth straight out, chopping their arms off and strapping them to the treadle generator behind the bicycle, replacing the old mindless corpse with a freshly minted, intelligent power source. They roared and thrashed for now, but he was not worried. A little brainpower was good, it just meant training them like dogs. He credited their success to Song Ah's brand new pet, looking over at her with a smile. Crystal Scorpion scurried around her feet, keeping its sharp stinger and barb raised. Hai Nangchu pointed out the creature's mind seemed remarkably sharp, acting more like a loyal hunting hound that kept watch on its own, making a low clicking noise to warn of nearby threats. Song Ah grinned, proud of her little companion. She called him Little Crystal, insisting her gut feeling about him had been right. He agreed, noting the scorpion could spot dried corpses from hundreds of meters away even through the heavy wind. Song Ah nodded, explaining she believed it relied on vibrations, being insanely sensitive to tiny tremors, since zombie movements had a very specific pattern on contact. Suddenly, a system prompt popped up right beside the scorpion. It possessed high intelligence vibration tracking and was actually a lost, domesticated mount belonging to underground creatures. Feeding it pure crystals or rare metals would help it grow. He tried to dig up more details but failed, lacking the required charm or spiritual energy, a natural hunting companion. Now he understood its seamless teamwork. The instinct was literally hardwired. A mount, though. He stared at its tiny, palm-sized body and imagined it growing massive enough to carry a rider, boasting a crystal shell like a mobile fortress, basically a tank. Talk about an absolute jackpot of a companion. He playfully teased her for living out a lucky protagonist's dream of finding secret caves and legendary beasts. Her eyes lit up with excitement, and she beamed, promising that once Little Crystal grew big, she would give him a ride. They pushed their bikes into the gas station to start searching for real. The Crystal Scorpion immediately took up sentry duty, and any zombie wandering too close would just end up fueling their generator. To avoid any sudden ambushes, he led a small scout team to secure the area. Then Song Ah brought in the scavengers, her job being to locate and inventory everything, while the others did the heavy lifting. Over the radio, he checked in with the other groups. The feedback confirmed what they already knew, even in average spots. Her sheer luck hauled in nearly 1/3 more supplies than anyone else, completely ignoring hidden caches. Convoy 341 had never run short on food or water, though it was strictly about survival. Hot showers, were still a fantasy. Cheers broke out near the store as goods piled up. Stacks of soda, boxes of beef-flavored instant noodles, sweet canned. Yellow peaches, egg noodles, savory canned meat, classic can. Dace fish and black bean sauce, rolls of gum and bags of potato chips. Chocolate bars and cases of bottled water. The entire shop was stripped down to a massive mound of loot in the parking lot. The crew was absolutely ecstatic after. Their hard work paid off. Exploring further behind the station, they scavenged pots, pans, kitchenware, furniture, and one girl even discovered a rare, an intact shower head. He had a clear target, heading straight for the area behind the rest area building. There sat a dusty, old three-wheeled motorcycle, complete with the keys still in the ignition. He turned it, and the engine sputtered to life. A chug-chug sound broke the gas station's silence, vibrating sharply. The girls gathered around in excitement. Finally, a real mechanically powered vehicle was in their hands, but a realization hit him. He had no idea how to drive it. Shifting gears was a mess, and every attempt left the machine chugging and stalling. After a few near misses, he almost crashed straight into a wall. Quick pull of the convoy showed that nobody else could drive it either. He climbed off, preparing to push it toward the bicycles. Then Nub Bing came rushing over. Hearing the noise, she claimed she could drive it, explaining that she once rode a cruiser, a Cayenne Jiang Flash 300, and rode it to work every single day. Speaking, she straddled the bike and shifted to neutral, squeezing the clutch and turning the key to start it in one smooth motion. He praised her sincerely. The old driver's skill truly suited her perfectly. She smiled triumphantly, tossing her long hair and tilting her chin to ask if the handsome guy wanted a ride. He hopped on next to her immediately after their intimate close contact in the driver's seat earlier, with a certain part of him still throbbing. Their bond had quietly grown much closer. The throttle twisted as she took him for a lap around the gas station lot, even helping the resource team transport salvaged doors and heavy panes of glass along the way. Stopping, she held the handlebar with one hand while tucking loose hair behind her ear with the other. Her voice carried nostalgia as she promised to take him for a proper ride if they ever made it back. She even mentioned owning a tight-fitting leather biker suit that really showed off her figure. Smiling, he told her it was a promise. He did not need to imagine the scene. Based on the experience from moments ago, holding a waist like hers at high speed would be every bit as good as she promised. She sighed softly, telling him not to mind her discouraging thoughts, admitting that she was actually deeply anxious. She feared their team might collapse, leaving them to perish like the wandering dry corpses who were once part of earlier convoys themselves. He laughed, suggesting they might be the first group of truly free people left on Earth. Stunned, she echoed the words back. Before he explained, people had school, mortgages, demanding bosses, and family. Endless burdens even for the wealthy. Out here, there were no rules. No traffic laws. The world was brutal but simple and pure. Survive and grow stronger, especially with a solid team. The goal was terrifyingly clear. Live as if they had already died once. This life was a bonus, and their mission was to do everything they never dared to do before. Dazed, she nodded, her gaze brightening. Talking to him eased her anxiety, and she asked if they could chat like this more often. No problem, he replied, since they were teammates and partners. She agreed, smiling, calling them the ultimate driving duo when combined. She stole a glance at his lap with flushed cheeks, asking quietly if it still hurt down there. Their bumpy ride had pressed her hard against him, making her eager to apologize properly, though she had struggled to find the. He rolls his eyes helplessly, grabbing a half-empty bottle of iced mineral water. Look, he explains to her, pointing out that the plastic bottle is only half full. Squeeze it empty and it bends, but fill it with water, screw the cap tight, and strike it hard. What happens then? Her face turns completely red, her voice dropping to a tiny whisper. It would break or explode, she mumbles. Exactly, he says with a bitter smile. That is basically what she did to him. Her face immediately grows serious, instantly filled with pure panic and regret. She asks if it is really that serious. She assumed it was just a simple sprain. She had absolutely no idea the consequences could be this severe. Overcome with guilt, she reaches out without thinking. Her fingers touch his loose waistband, pulling down gently before she suddenly freezes. What she sees is a firm waistline and a flat, toned stomach. It rises and falls slowly with his breath, muscles perfectly clear and defined. No swelling, no bruising, no injury at all, and that mineral water bottle Fully intact, he chuckles softly at her shocked face, calling it an internal injury. Her cheeks burn bright red, but her eyes stay completely locked on him. She says she does not believe it, accusing him of lying in a low voice. The open ground of the gas station falls into a deep, heavy silence. Nothing can be heard but the quiet sound of their own breathing. Distant chatter from the other girls fades, leaving this tiny corner. Exceptionally still, she looks up, staring straight into his eyes. Her fingertips slowly reach out and touch his abs, feeling his steady breathing. Her fingers tremble as she asks softly if he is actually okay. Her eyes lock onto his. He does not pull away, simply asking what she thinks. His voice is low, carrying just a slight, deep rasp. Her hand shakes again. She knows she must pull back, that this is too much. But some intense, unexplainable emotion takes full control of her. In this brutal, uncertain world, on this burning hot and deadly afternoon, hidden in this quiet corner where it is just the two of them, she refuses to let go. He suddenly asks how she drives a motorcycle. She says he should know better. Still, he explains his own method anyway, even if half of it is wrong. Check neutral, squeeze the clutch with the left hand, grip the throttle. Twist it gently, listen closely to the engine, and when it is running smooth, give it some gas slowly before shifting into gear to start. She listens to his veteran explanation and blushes, not daring to argue. His simple logic makes perfect sense. This bike is no different from the Flash 300. In fact, it is even easier. Time to unlock that veteran driver talent. She just needs to follow along. The moment she grabs the handles, she realizes her talent actually works, cutting her required effort by 50%. Incredible, is this the real way to use it? 10 minutes later, he leans back against the seat, letting out a satisfied sigh while gulping down water. Absolutely exhilarating. These special talents are truly magical. There was no warning. He made a joking comparison, and it actually worked. By pure accident, he just discovered a brand new way to apply Na Bing's talent. As long as it is a vehicle, she can instantly master it. And the moment she gripped the steering wheel, she instantly felt its mileage, fuel, and wear. She knew the engine power, throttle tension, everything. Dong Yuan walked by carrying 2 crates of cola, asking if Nub Bing had hurt her hands again. She knew Nub Bing got painful blisters from driving, and that he had sent her to get healed before. Seeing the driver staring down at her palms, the healer assumed she was injured. Nub Bing quickly explained she had only unscrewed a bottle cap and got a slight sting. But Dong Yuan insisted that even minor pain meant a lingering wound, or perhaps a severe sunburn, offering her magic. Nub Bing politely turned her down, explaining she needed to adapt. Relying on magic constantly would never let her hands toughen up. She told Dong Yuan to just leave the heavy crates right there on the truck, and she would unload them in a bit. He quickly stepped in to smooth things over, explaining with a chuckle that Nub Bing was actually teaching him how to drive. Otherwise, he would never manage to control their newly upgraded ride. That was completely true. He had absolutely no idea how to drive a manual. He had learned the basics back in school, but had never touched a clutch since. Luckily, under her close guidance, he picked up the main tricks incredibly fast. Double-check the gear. Squeeze the clutch in neutral to start, or else the engine will stall instantly. Ease off the clutch gently to keep it from slipping, but do not burn the plates. You just have to match the engine's speed. After 2 quick trips hauling cargo back and forth, he could finally handle the heavy tricycle. Whiz. The massive glass panels successfully moved. He parked the vehicle and began searching for fuel. He grabbed the old gas station nozzle, desperate to squeeze out any remaining fuel. But the pump was totally ruined, spraying nothing but dry sand. That did not stop him. He grabbed a crowbar and smashed the dispenser wide open, revealing the heavy metal pipes that ran straight into the underground storage tanks. Those massive tanks are always buried right under your feet, never too far away. He knew some leftover gas had to be down there, plenty for their needs. But ripping open the tank directly in this scorching desert heat, pure suicide. One spark from the fumes mixing with oxygen would blow them all to pieces. So he called Nang Chu over. Since physical strength failed, it was time for magic. She shot a stream of high-pressure water straight down into the exposed pipe, using the water pressure to locate the exact position of the fuel tank. There was still a bit of fuel left, just enough. He carefully slipped a long plastic hose down inside, took a deep breath, and began to siphon it. Liquid started flowing, and the survivors rushed forward with empty plastic bottles to catch. Every single drop, this was not just fuel for their ride, but perfect weapon material. Nang Chu carefully took over the hose while summoning her magic jellyfish, cooling down the surrounding air to make sure the toxic vapors did not ignite. With the fuel secured, a brand new craft recipe suddenly flashed before his eyes. A high-grade firebomb required 1 liter of gasoline, some cloth, and an explosive fire spear needed a basic stone weapon combined with those same items. The standard firebomb was nothing special, but that second option, absolutely wild. He finally had a powerful ranged weapon. Excited, he brought the gasoline to his crafting table and laid out the items. A bright, blinding flash of light erupted. The raw components fused together, revealing a strangely shaped, lethal spear. He ties a glass bottle of gasoline to the spearhead of a wooden shaft made for grip. He grabs it and hurls it toward a distant, empty stretch of desert. The spear slices through the scorching desert air and slams hard into the ground. The bottle shatters, splashing the gasoline, and the moment it hits the air, it violently explodes into a massive sheet of roaring flame, covering nearly 5 square meters. The fire wraps around sand and gravel, lifting into the air without weakening at all from the mixed-in sand against another team's vehicle. This is perfect. Honestly, this is a total vehicle killer. Watch closely. Armor cannot withstand this sticky, clinging burn. His raw physical strength is already unreal on its own. The test throw easily cleared 200 meters and further. Was definitely possible, though his accuracy would suffer at extreme distances. A smirk tugs at the corner of his mouth as he watches the fireball burn. This powerful ranged attack with incredible reach is finally in his arsenal, but the upgrades are far from over. With a weapon ready, he wants to make his precious ride truly formidable. He focuses and lightly touches the bike. Suddenly, the vehicle before his eyes begins to glow, every single part lighting up as it transforms into a detailed 3-dimensional model floating in his mind. Through this special view, he can easily choose and decide what to upgrade next. The most urgent is the engine. Suddenly, Song-ah screams that dried corpses are approaching. The convoy halts immediately, everyone dropping their tasks to grab their weapons. He was just about to work on the vehicle, and this sudden interruption flares his temper. He looks where the crystal scorpion points, just a hazy, dusty gray, completely blocking his vision. Grabbing an explosive combustion spear, he creeps forward, vaguely spotting the swaying shapes of several dried corpses through the haze. He creeps closer to see what they are up to, but they suddenly turn to leave. He has no choice but to hurl the spear. A massive fireball erupts, the flames billowing as he rushes forward. 2 dried corpses caught in the blast are digging frantically into the sand, paddling through the hot yellow grains like swimming, their swift movements vanishing beneath the surface in the blink of an eye. But the one skewered by the spear gets no such luck. Pinned to the burning ground and engulfed in flames, the dried corpse ignites, instantly crackling as it burns down to a pile of charred black bones in moments. Those dried corpses run incredibly fast, he mutters. Song-ah approaches with the crystal scorpion to confirm no more monsters are nearby. He walks over to the exact spot where they had burrowed. Just a few charred bits of dried meat remain scattered across the ground. These dried corpses moving through the sand is like fish diving into water, fast and completely traceless. Song-ah warns they move so fast that it keeps them constantly on the defensive, meaning they have to watch out no matter what they are doing. She is panting, completely drenched in sweat. In this brutal heat, leaving the jellyfish's cooling range means getting soaked within a minute or two. Sweat runs in heavy streams down her chest and stomach, dripping onto the hot sand and rising as wisps of white steam off the scorching ground. Talk about sweating a literal storm. No wonder Nabiang complained about basically being pickled in salt. At this rate, a thick salt crust would form on their skin within days. He nods, pointing out their only advantage. These creatures cannot travel through brick, and they realized that staying on the paved roads and the hard gas station concrete kept them safe. No underground ambushes would catch them off guard there, giving them time to react. Song-ah complained about those annoying, dog-like creatures, though she had a strange gut feeling. She believed that following them might actually lead to some highly unexpected discoveries. Wiping her forehead, she suggested tracking them nearby, confident that her luck was pointing to something. There could be hidden resource points around, but she did not dare go alone. Hearing this got her excited. More treasure was a massive win. She told Song-ah to wait. She needed to upgrade the bicycle first, promising to tag along right after. They had plenty of time anyway, and resting after scavenging was a must. Song-ah nodded. With a smile, Song-ah mentioned she had already scouted most of the common areas. They had even spotted a bathtub earlier, but it was far too heavy to carry. Loading it seemed pointless then, but they could reconsider once the vehicle upgrades were done. Song-ah was absolutely obsessed with the idea of taking a proper bath. She had already brought it up multiple times. The protagonist told her not to worry. They would install it if power allowed. Fortunately, they had enough water for now. But even she, capable of going a month without a real shower, was hitting her limit. Earlier, while teaching Not Being how to feather the gas pedal, dirt literally rolled off her skin. Only a quick splash of water saved the lessons from becoming completely unbearable. It felt like an old, crude joke about a beautiful girl ruining a romantic moment. You know, the one where she finally gets the guy to her room and immediately ruins everything. If they kept avoiding a real wash, every girl in the convoy would face that tragedy. Sweat and dust were caking into a thick, gross layer of armor under their clothes. Bathing on the vehicle was absolutely vital for their mental health. Without wasting any more time, she composed herself and focused on the bicycle. It was time to ruthlessly upgrade its power this time. A fossil fuel energy injection was coming, and she confirmed the upgrade. She would use the tricycle's entire power system, including the engine. The transmission, fuel tank, gearbox, clutch, and brakes were all going in. It was basically dismantling its guts to rebuild the bicycle. Just watch this, a brilliant white light flowed like liquid over the entire vehicle. The system confirmed she had consumed a single-cylinder 4-stroke engine, along with a 5-speed gearbox, oil brakes, and shock absorbers. Everything fused together to give the bicycle stronger mechanical power. Its power and comfort levels skyrocketed. Driving and braking performance both improved, and the panel updated. It was now a super-combined electric assist bicycle with grade E mechanical steering. The seating included 50 seats with backrests and 2 beds. Power came from a single-cylinder 300cc gasoline engine. With pedal and electric assist at grade D, the driving speed was incredible. It could go from 0 to 80 kilometers per hour on desert-paved roads. The suspension system featured front fork shock absorption. It also used spring and solid rubber tire shock absorbers on the rear. The brakes featured front disc brakes and rear pad brakes. With a grade F braking ability, she let out a long, satisfied sigh. Defensive rank, a lowly grade F, he lets out a satisfied sigh. Step by step, the setup became worlds apart. Bicycle, the best part, finally having some proper hydraulic shock absorption so the handlebars stopped vibrating like a crazy massager. This was starting to look like a real vehicle. With a quick thought, he renamed it the Super Combined Car, and the panel updated. Nubbing leaned in to check, her eyes lighting up at the displacement of 300cc, exactly matching her Flash 300. She looked at him with surprise and excitement, thanking him and saying she could already imagine how comfortable the ride would be, promising that the power would definitely be great, even offering to take him for a spin. Then a sudden realization hit her, and she turned bright red. He smiled, since he hadn't planned the 300cc upgrade. Pure coincidence, pulling 49 people meant massive overloading. Severely overloaded, the power seemed decent, but it would struggle at speed. Especially during starts, the electric motor needed massive torque just to get everything moving. Nubbing realized this quickly, but she also caught a subtler issue, namely that overloading in this intense heat could cause the cooling to fail, stalling the vehicle or even blowing the cylinders. She pointed directly at the engine area, suggesting they swap air cooling for water cooling, explaining that back on Earth, basic air cooling could only sustain 2 hours of intense driving before stalling, and here it probably would not survive 30 minutes, while water cooling could easily handle 3 hours. Continuously, taking her solid advice, he spent another box of basic parts and some scavenged metal piping to kick off the upgrade. Bright white light flared again, weaving a circuit of fine copper pipes around the engine. A compact water tank integrated directly into the frame. Song-ah stood beside him, checking the system panel, asking with some confusion if they should consider removing the running board to drop weight, free up space, and make movement easier. He shook his head, declining for now since their power was still weak. The stalling risk was real, and in a critical moment, the running board could save lives. He knew trading a little space for safety was totally worth the trade. Song-ah nodded, agreeing to follow his lead. Hint of longing for extra space lingered in her eyes before she accepted it. She quietly added that they should hold off on installing the bathtub too, since they needed to wait for stronger power first. Regret tinged her voice, but her expression remained composed. She refused to burden an already heavily overloaded vehicle just to take a bath. The surrounding girls looked disappointed but nodded. In agreement, honestly, survival came first. Skipping a bath wouldn't kill them, but a stalled vehicle on an incline definitely would. Scavenging was basically finished. Everyone gathered under the massive awning of the abandoned gas station. Someone hauled the heavy ceramic bathtub right to the center of the space, preparing for everyone to take turns washing. Nang Chu's water ability had grown enough to provide plenty of clean water without much struggle. After some brief discussion, the group decided to share a single tub of water, rinsing roughly first, filtering out the silt before washing a second time. Not a thorough cleaning, but infinitely better than salt stains and dust. Suddenly the gas station became lively as the girls peeled off their masks and stripped bandages. Sweat-soaked clothes piled up to the side as he looked around and saw a crowd of backsides swaying under the awning shade, completely stunning him. For a second before he burst out laughing, Song-ah followed his gaze, covered her mouth and doubled over with laughter. The reason was simple. Everyone was heavily tanned. Endless exposure had turned their skin various shades of brown, with thick dust making them look gray. The only small spots still showing their original skin tone were the parts fabric had covered, looking blindingly pale against the rest. Anyone who had survived military training or beach sunbathing knew this crazy contrast looked photoshopped. The untanned shapes varied wildly. Loose shorts left big circular patches. Tighter pants left sharp crescent lines. Sitting habits produced asymmetrical halves. The most hilarious was Nubbing. Her tight yoga shorts had only shielded a small central strip, baking the dark tan onto the sides of her full backside while the middle stayed white. The two cheeks created a perfect, clearly defined heart-shaped pattern, as expected of a yoga teacher. With a flawless figure, even her tan lines looked artistic. Song-ah lowered her voice and told him to look at Nubbing, calling it totally wild. Then she added quietly that her body was the real deal, saying those curves were so big. She originally thought she was wearing silicone padding under her yoga pants. He agreed with a smile, telling her that 90% of what people see online is fake, that few actually have great figures, and clothes hide a lot. The two of them started moving along while gossiping in low whispers. Song-ah was ready to start searching for resources. She had no specific target, just wandering through the ruins of the abandoned gas station on instinct. He told Nubbing where they were going, grabbed a walkie-talkie, and walked beside Song-ah. His eyes swept the cracked concrete walls and the hardened road surface that was almost completely buried under yellow sand. The wind and sand were growing stronger, not quite a storm yet, but still troublesome. Visibility fell below 20 meters, the howling wind making it impossible to keep eyes open. He used the walkie-talkie to instruct Nubbing to start upgrading the vehicle shell. It did not need to be super strong, just enough to block the harsh wind. Everyone had collected glass and iron sheets earlier with this exact situation in mind. Unknowingly, the two of them drifted to the edge of the abandoned station. Where it met the desert, the wind and sand whipped much harder here than in the sheltered interior. Grains of sand rattled against the ruined walls with a rapid tapping noise. Suddenly, a fierce gust mixed with hot grit blew over him. The scorching sand stung his bare skin, forcing him to duck behind a wall. I rushed over worriedly, but seeing he was fine, she laughed and started teasing him about showing off his six-pack, saying that was what he got for going shirtless. Just as she finished teasing him, an even stronger gust hit them. Her playful expression vanished, and she bent over frantically, shaking the makeshift bandages wrapped around her chest. He burst out laughing and instantly mimicked her, telling her this was exactly what happened when she wore clothes. She gritted her teeth. Her voice caught between pain and laughter. It was incredibly hot. She shook herself, but could not shake the sand out, having tied the bandages way too tight. She felt a slight movement. Reaching deep inside, she finally pulled out the culprit. It was a small iron sheet, scorching hot. Normal sand only gets 50 or 60 degrees, but metal flakes under the blazing sun. He noted that her luck had finally kicked in, suggesting the iron sheet meant something was hidden nearby. He scanned the area, facing the relentless wind that swept across the endless, rolling sand dunes. Their outlines completely blurred by the desert storm, he suspected that something lay half buried in the sand, and the metal piece had drifted from. There, the ground sat lower here, surrounded by massive dunes on both sides, forming a natural wind tunnel, channeling the fierce gales in one direction. With extreme force, the whipping sand was not lethal, but it stung. Against bare skin, after feeling that burn, neither of them wanted to risk it unprotected. They returned to the vehicle and crafted 2 long, flowing robes out of raw fabric. Once the outfits were ready, he decided to bring Dan Yon along. Having a skilled healer on the team was always smart, especially in these ruins. Facing a venomous scorpion or a dried corpse scratch could mean life or death, just like that. 10 minutes later, he approached a patch of sand that looked unnaturally flat. The ground did not curve like the surrounding dunes, but seemed forcibly leveled by some massive force. He raised his axe and carefully scraped away the top sand, revealing a rusty, mottled iron plate underneath. Soft tap cracked it open, exposing a hidden layer of fiberglass paneling. Just underneath, brittle and yellowed like plasterboard, he used the butt of his axe to smash it, only to uncover a solid concrete barrier. It was stacked layer after layer, like an onion. He squatted down and tapped the concrete with the back of his weapon. The sound was hollow, suggesting empty space. He immediately realized something was down there, maybe a basement, or even an entire house swallowed by the desert. He quickly cleared the sand from the edges. Sure enough, they were standing directly on the roof. Since the small building sat so low, the desert had completely swallowed it, leaving only the top exposed. Earlier, the fierce wind had ripped off that metal sheet, which was what caught his eye in the first place. Dan Yon suggested calling the crew over to dig out the sand. He shook his head, knowing that was too much work. Even if they cleared the path, the surrounding dunes would just slide right back in. He weighed his iron pickaxe, grinning at them and suggesting they keep things simple and brutal. He gripped the handle with both hands, took a deep breath, and prepared to strike. Suddenly, a rip echoed. The cool breeze lasted under 3 seconds. He paused mid-swing, looking down in dismay. The long robe he had just crafted had split open at the back, ripped by his bulging muscles. Too awkward. If the burning wind got inside, it was going to sting. Dan Yon and Song Ao stood frozen, then burst out laughing, joking about how incredibly thick his muscles were. They were so solid his robes just could not handle them. Amidst their laughter, the two actually reached out to touch his flexed shoulders, wasting no time getting close. One on each side, they stepped in to assist him. They strip off their robes. Each girl holds one side of the fabric, building a makeshift sand barrier while he gets to work behind it. He tests the impact with a test swing. By the second strike, he smashes right through the